Alright, I think we should be rolling on both cents. Yes? Alright, we'll see how this goes.
Yay!
But alright, shoot with what you mean by you enjoy creating things for the games more than you do playing them. Like,
I don't think it's just games. I think in general, when it comes to most art, I'm someone who's really, really like skeptical about the art that I consume. And usually that drives me in a place of like, then I need to kind of prove why I'm so skeptical by being able to make something of that caliber myself. So like, if I'm like, I have a game that I really like called Splatoon, right? Love the game. I love the world building of it. Rotate it?
For some reason, when you were speaking on this side
Yeah?
of your mic, it came in a lot louder just a second ago.
Interesting.
Yeah, try and hear yourself as you're speaking and holding it, because then you'll be able to adjust for... Yeah, see?
I think it has a high end and a low end thing going on. So
Yes, yeah, whereas mine is just full directional, whereas yours, when you take that off, it's got the flat ends.
It's definitely for like studio recording. So like the way that it picks up audio is a lot more like...
Oh, true, you're wanting
Yeah.
it to capture what the singer is just getting, and if there's anything reverberating off the back, it doesn't want that back rebound coming in and distorting.
Easier to edit as well. I could be completely wrong about that, but like when I do my own vocals and stuff like that, I just have to be careful that the like washing machine isn't on, one, and then two, generally my bedroom doesn't have great soundproofing, but my closet, when it has enough clothing in it, does that enough.
Really? Okay. How?
Because the main issue when you're soundproofing, you're just making sure that there's lots of folds for the sound to disappear into, as opposed to bouncing back at your...
Oh, so that's what it means with soundproofing. I literally just thought, when they say just put rugs on the wall, it was to absorb the vibrations more.
So if you think about audio the way you think about light, so light moves in a straight line until it hits the surface and then it bounces
back.
Right.
Yep.
So like with sound, it's very similar in the sense that...
But it's going in a broader spectrum, isn't it, though, normally?
I think it is. I
like,
don't recall.
It always funnels. That's how I remember sound. It comes out, it funnels, and then bang, 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 bang.
With most audio, like, not audio proofing, but audio... absorption, like materials and stuff like that, it's about having as much detail in the object as you can to ensure that when the audio is moving towards it, it's moving inwards instead of bouncing back out.
Oh, okay, right. So that's why when you see in because I had a mate that had his whole theater room set up with surround sound and everything. He had these like triangle foam things shoved onto the roof, basically, so the roof just looked like a bunch of little pyramids looking down at you.
Yeah, literally. And that's why rooms echo more if there's less in them.
Because there's more open space for it just to
bounce right back at you.
Yeah. Right.
Yep,
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. See, there we go. See, I have no idea on that when it comes to audio stuff.
No, that's the thing where it's like, it's so dependent on what you're using the audio for. So of course you have things that you know more about in relation to recording like this, which I wouldn't know anything about. And I know more things in terms of getting the cleanest audio for a song that I want to make or something. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I want to start I don't know. I've always loved music. I definitely want to get back into guitar. So, I love singing in the shower and in my car when there's no one else around, because then you feel the most comfortable and you're happy just when you hit when you try and hit a note and you sort of just do a little like frog croak sort of thing. But when you're with other people and you do that frog croak, it kills your momentum.
No, straight up.
Yeah, but when you're by yourself, it's like, I just worked through that frog croak. I don't even give a fuck about that.
I'm so scared. I'm too much of a perfectionist about everything that I do that I get to a point of like, even singing, I do it for fun. You can ask you can ask my roommates for sure. I sing a lot, but like in terms of how I think to kind of come back to the question of like games and like media and stuff like that, I'm very much someone who's like, I want things to be the best version of what they can be. And that's usually a good thing, but sometimes that can be a bad thing because it ends up putting me in a situation where I'm trying to
almost constantly critique it to the point that you don't follow through with it.
I don't enjoy it.
Yes.
Or I enjoy it, but it becomes like a job.
Yes, it becomes more of a drag. I feel you with this. That's why every episode I am going in nervous as hell because I'm feeling like, it's not... should I have it set up in a way that is going to get the maximum effect that I'm wanting to? But for the thing that I'm wanting to do, this is where sometimes this shit can be tricky, because either this one might be on a setting.
Yeah.
Alright, actually, everyone, we're just going to pause this for 2 seconds and then revamp.
It's not picking up a lot of like random audio.
No, Oz is doing really well with that. I like that. No, the timer was off. I'm just going to film one thing real quick.
Okay.
Oh yes, it is feeling quite hot. This is the only downside to a GoPro.
Tiny machine.
Yes, tiny machine, and unless it has a fan going on it directly, it likes to overheat.
Well, wish we had a stand-up fan.
I'm just going to... this is the best thing I can do for it instead. Standard 620. Let's just go 1080. 24 frames per second, because I don't really care too much about all of that. I'm going to do as mounted. Because now it's sitting at like, oh, we've got 18 hours worth of recording, whereas before it was only saying you got 10 hours worth of recording.
Right.
Because at 270, like I've done it at 4K resolution, and that is, unless you have it basically sitting on top of a fucking freezer, in a freezer, days like today, it just heats up like crazy.
Which is wild, because isn't this thing made to be like used outside? You know what I mean?
Well, it's made to use in small bursts. It is not fully designed to be a...
like the main camera.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Alright, well, we're back on audio. I didn't pause... Sorry, back video. I didn't pause audio.
That's okay. Easy to clip. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one thing I wish I could figure out more with the video editing software.
Yeah.
They've got so many AI bits to help you with, like if you want to do this editing, if you want to turn a picture into a moving picture sort of thing, to make it basically look like your cat is moving outside of its frame instead of it just sitting there, or start making it move, and loved ones will start actually kissing like as a video. That's sort of thing. But they don't have any AI set up for, can you help me like make sure that the audio and the mouths are matching with the video? No, I have to sit there and go 0.1 of a second, 0.1 of a second.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing it. It looks like it's fine. I'm going to leave it with that.
Yeah. I don't like AI anything on my anything. It's all useless to me.
See, okay. All right. We'll get back to this later. But I want to... What were we talking about before with...
perfectionism.
Perfectionism, yes. Because with this, feeling that I've got to... have everything already set up to be, I don't know, in my head. I don't want this to be like Joe Rogan, essentially. No. I don't want to make it into something where it's got to be a big hit. Like, this is making me money. Yeah. It's a passion thing that you enjoy doing. Yeah, this is something is so I can talk to people like yourself and have conversations, capture them, and give them to others in case, hey, who knows, maybe one little thing that I say out of however many hours I end up creating can help someone. That's all I really want to gain from it. And to maybe get someone else that I might never meet to be like, hey, I'd love to have a chat with you. Do you want to do, can I come on your podcast? And then it's like, I never would have talked to this person possibly before without them doing this, even if they're in another country. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to be over there. Hit me up. I'll come sit, chat with you. But because of that, I feel still though that if I'm doing a podcast, who's going to listen to it unless it's already as engaging as you see all the mainstream ones? Yeah. I don't know. Do you feel the same in that sort of regard?
I had a moment where me and my sister tried to do a podcast together, and we had a whole concept for it and everything. The thing was like, we kind of made the primary goal of it to be spending time together. So it made it like once a week we have to get together and have a yap. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it didn't have to be about anything. We could choose if we wanted to be about something. And my perfectionist ass was like, okay, so this is the branding, this is the concept, this is how we're going to stage it. And she was like, we don't have to do all that. I'm like, yeah, but... And I think it's because my core belief, and I think it's the truth, if you do everything like with the pure, just like, if you do anything creatively with the pure desire to make it as good as it can be, people will recognize that and you will be fine.
Yes.
That's how I feel. I think that, like, for example, in a lot of like the games animation market right now, there's a lot of artists who are looking to be hired but that aren't necessarily looking to
create.
Yes, and that's okay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I think it's like saying that, like,
you're looking at
the people who are looking for people to hire will tend to kind of go for someone who seems like they really have like a vision for what they want to make. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm thankful enough to be someone who I've always got a vision if I'm making anything, to the extent that I'm surprised when I talk to people and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, while they're sitting and drawing or they're sitting and doing, and I'm like, and saying that in the sense like they don't know what they're working towards, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't relate to that, because anytime I'm sitting down, I'm like, it's because I have either an idea in the moment or I've already written down the idea prior in a list of things I want to make, and I'm like, okay, this is the thing I'm going to knock out, and I know how I want to knock it out.
Interesting. You've already got the plan set up first.
Yeah.
See, and that's where I differ. But that's why I'm interested on yours with your perfectionist status or aspect, mentality wise, on, because mine definitely seems to come from, I feel like I cannot try and plan anything like we've talked about before. On I literally can create a idea and then I have to react to everything within the moments. Like, to me, that's why with this it becomes more easier with, all right, let's just have a conversation, I'll just start the podcast. Because then it just flows into it. I did find this time just saying let's just start, but we already were sitting down having a conversation for the last freaking 2 hours before we actually click go on this.
Legit.
That felt easier than trying to go, all right, I've got a list of these questions and ideas I want to talk to you about. I sort of do in my head, but I'm not going to go through them like, oh, we have to talk about these. Like, and that to me, I feel like I sometimes should. Like, the perfectionist side of myself feels like I should have this list and be doing it in chronological order, following a designed plan that I have laid out and put thought into. But my mind just goes, throw that out because that does not feel right to me.
Right, okay.
Like, for me, it's just like I need to feel it in the moment to go, hey, I want to dive into this conversation more, or I don't. Like, if I do, I will, what's the word I'm looking for? I will instigate it more. I will make you direct it down that line. And if I don't, I will literally just shut it off right then and there. Well,
I mean, I wouldn't say that I have like chronological like lists that I'm working through or working towards. It's more like, if for example I'm gonna make a song, I already have a melody that I've been walking around with in my head for like 2 weeks, where I'm like, I know I should make the song because it's been catchy enough that I'm thinking about it without thinking about it, you know? Or if I'm like, I have a drawing I want to do, it's like, I've had this idea for a really long time. It's more like I just have to do this quickly and get it down so that I can start to incrementally build on it over time.
Okay, I understand that. Yes, because I do feel like that, but with topics or with ideas in my head.
Right.
And that's why I do love these, just having conversations. But okay, right. So I do see a similarity then in that. Okay. Because, when it comes to obviously your music and everything, I have no idea of how to even start in that area.
Well, that's, I don't know, I just find that interesting as well. Because I'm like talking to people who are, I guess, less of a creative, or people, like, similarly, if I talk to someone who's like very, like, they're studying something like engineering or scientific shit and stuff like that, I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, I truly don't know the thought process that goes behind that. I don't I don't relate to, and it doesn't relate to me. And I think that's actually something where I'm like, it's even to the extent that I find it attractive when I don't know what people are doing. more so than if they are creative, because then I will just start nitpicking their creative shit, which is not conducive to a good relationship, and also just toxic behavior. Like,
I could definitely agree with you on that, but I will say, like, I don't know, this is a rule for me of nothing's 100 nor 0.
Yeah, absolutely.
That there is aspects to that, because I do exactly the same thing, and
Yeah.
I will always say that to me, a good way of going through life I have found is take 1% from everyone. And that doesn't mean that it has to be like, and that's a minimum.
Yeah.
Like, you can also take 99% from someone.
Yeah.
Don't
yeah.
take 100, and don't just dismiss someone outright, because
Yeah.
you never know what avenue, even if it looks almost at the complete opposite end of whatever spectrum you're on, does not mean there's no relation that you could take from it and go like, holy shit, like,
No, totally.
now that I can expand on myself that little bit more. Because like if I'm in a real good headspace and mood, like when I was on holiday in New Zealand, not working, the people I was in the hostel with, I started creating a parody to Grease, like the song Grease, from Grease.
I thought you meant the whole musical.
Oh wait, no, sorry, I've got chills, they're multiplying.
Yeah,
like
that
one. Yeah, I just started with I'm on pills, they're intensifying, and like just doing like a Weird Al sort of.
Nice. And that's like really creatively liberating for you.
But when I'm like sitting here, I'm like, damn, I haven't thought of a good fucking tune for ages. And I'm just like, oh, how do I get myself into those feelings?
Yeah.
But I've found for me that it is down to where I am at and a time and place. Like at the moment, doing this is terrifying, but exciting.
I'm so interested in why you get spooked when you do podcasts.
Well, it's because I have a dream for it and I have a love for it, but I cannot see the end yet.
Right.
To me, the end of the tunnel, like, I don't know, if I'm doing painting of Warhammer,
Yeah.
I can literally see where the model is, what I'm going to envision. The light...
You and Kieran need to hang out, because he likes Warhammer too. Continue.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh, we definitely do, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe before I go, I should get him on this.
No, 100%.
But I can see, like, to me, the tunnel is shorter. So the light is brighter at the end. Whereas, like I said, for this, I see me doing this for the rest of my life, almost, or trying to keep this going for the rest of my life.
Okay.
To just, you know, like yourself with being even only 5 years younger than me, I like the, what's the way to put it? The openness that youth has. So, you know, from the day you were born, every person older than you, that number does not ever increase.
No, I see what you mean. Like, like this, like relativity in relation to, okay, I see.
So that as I get older, the potential people to learn from and new ideas and new scopes of our reality to gain from excels. To me, that light at the end of the tunnel is like less than a fucking pinprick, because it looks so far away that right now, like on YouTube, this is the only place I have this at the moment. You know, I tell myself not to every time it does. But every time you do see that, like, it's not really gaining any traction, it hits you.
Yeah.
The only way I can describe it another way is working for myself in gardening. Is I can get so many clients saying like, oh, really happy with your work, you know, like, thank you so much for doing this. And I'm always like, I'm glad you're happy with this. Like, thank you for telling me, because it means that I feel like I've done the work properly to the standard I want to, and that I've even learned from past mistakes.
Yes.
But as soon as I get that one negative person come in that goes like, you know, oh, I wish you had told me you didn't know how to do this. But it's like, well, actually I do, but obviously I didn't do it to what you liked it to. You haven't tried to tell me in the way, like, I had a client that said everything was great and fine, and then literally the next day said that to me in a message. And I was kind of like, oh, but you said everything was great when I did it there, and now you've come back with something, which I suspect either
tomfoolery.
Family member maybe even came over and said, oh, that looks like shit work or something.
Yeah.
And now she started noticing these.
No, but that's also moving the goalposts. And in any situation socially, that's just bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't set your expectations and then you get upset at someone for not realizing those expectations, that's moving goalposts.
I agree, yes. But your mind focuses on the negative. So for me, when I see that, like, oh, it's not gaining traction, is there any point in doing the next episode? So for me, the fear is more, it doesn't feel like it's gotten where you feel comfortable and happy that it's almost like in its own ebb and flow. It's still much something that I am sitting here having to build at.
Yeah.
Do all the hard grinding.
Yeah.
That is the daunting. That's mainly the fear.
Right.
Like as soon as we're doing this, I'm happy and comfortable right now.
Okay, cool.
I couldn't give a flying crud what we're talking about, how it's sounding or anything.
Right.
It's fun to me in this moment. But leading up to this, that was partly why I said like I was too drained yesterday. I felt like because it was normally I do this in the morning with people or midday like we were planning today.
Sorry,
No, it's on your schedule. That's what I'm happy to work with.
Yeah.
But I, got drained from so much other stuff and having this in the back of my head going like, oh, do I have all the equipment ready yet? Like,
sure.
Like, am I going to make it there on time? Blah, 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 blah. That I just drained myself from it instead of being, letting it just going to be what it's going to be.
Yes. Okay. I see.
But then as soon as it starts, it's like, I can't stop it now. I just got to let it go. And then I feel so comfortable. I don't feel drained. And I will literally walk away from this feeling like I have just smoked a whole bowl of weed.
Yeah. That's so fair. I'm trying to think of a situation like, for me, that's music. Specifically, though, singing, not producing music. When I produce music, if I like it and I know it's good, I'll be like, because I feel like it's not indicative of like my, I don't know why I feel this way, but I don't think it's like indicative of my ability to communicate a creative idea, right? I don't know why. I think it's got to do with the way that I'm using a computer to input it, or I get to tweak away any small things that I don't like about it. But with singing, for example, if I'm like, here's a video of me singing, like, unless I'm really sure that's like my best singing, I feel like I'm communicating to people less than great version of what I'm capable of. Yeah.
I completely understand that on this as well. I always feel like I need to have the perfect topics already set up. Like, a conversation that's going to be absolutely engaging. Whereas if you watch my first episode, which, I love the man for, like, he's been someone I've known since high school, but we were literally talking about just us sort of thing, like talking about freaking his cat crapping everywhere, his love for Lego sort of thing. And to me, in my head, it's like, does people really want to sit here and listen to this? Like,
a lot of people would,
but that's it. But to me, I don't look at it like that because I wouldn't. Whereas I feel like, I don't know, I would love to hear some of your music. And I feel like we all deal with that, especially maybe with singing, because it's so universal. Since like you're a kid, you'll be singing in the car, you'll be singing at school, but then you start getting people that either want to do it out of a narcissistic trait or out of a desire that they think they're better or something, but they start putting you down. Individuals start putting you down, that then you start feeling like your voice isn't that great unless it's people going like, oh, you sound like Elton John, or you sound like Sia or something. But it's like, but they don't sound like anyone else. They sound like themselves.
Right. And I think that there's also a whole thing of singing where we're in a place right now where I think people only reward you creatively if they feel like they're getting the absolute best from you, specifically in relation to music. Because I think that I learned really quickly when I started producing music that the difference between illustration, when I show people my illustrations, that it takes them like 3 seconds to be like, wow, that's really cool, and then they continue their lives, right? But with a song, they're sitting there, and for them to actually get the song, they have to sit and listen to it. And you're taking their time, you're asking them to also not like to look around, but like not to look, you know what I mean? You're asking them to take in the song. And when you're listening to things, it's similar to like if you're like, watch my short film. You sit there, you look at it, and you're just like, I know that I'm a difficult person to be on the, like, not the receiving side of, but like if someone asks me to do that, then I get very like, oh, okay, yeah, these are the things that I tweak about it in this way, right? But like, yeah, with music, it's just so like, I'm taking this person's time, and if it's not good and I've made them sit there for 3 minutes, it's just like, 3 minutes takes a long time and you don't want to be there, that kind of energy. Yes,
I understand in that way of you almost feel like if it doesn't feel like it's going to encapsulate them like the image will in a heartbeat.
Yeah, totally.
I don't want to try and put it out to the world.
No.
And I do feel that with this, where it's like, if the first 5 seconds of the podcast doesn't make someone want to just be like, oh, engaged.
Yeah.
Is it going to work? But I will say difference between this and music is people do expect a conversation to ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Whereas with music, it's almost like, you know, when you hear Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. I don't know, because I grew up with that. I love that song. But when I start hearing that, or I remember the first time I just started hurting that melody, the way the notes all flowed together, the sounds, I got the tingles. Like, I got goosebumps. And that to me is like, you sort of feel like if you're not giving people that straight away, what's the point?
And that's where I'm like, I think that's why I'm like, I feel like there is, I used to not believe in the concept of an it factor, but I've started to understand what it is the more I've met different kinds of creatives and different things that they make as well, where like someone will be a really strong technical person at a thing that they're doing, right? And they will know how it works, how to make it, how to build it, and to the point that they'll inform me greatly on it. But there'll be an it factor that I have to be like, but you're not understanding what makes this, like what the hook is for this creatively, or what the, and I think that happens a lot with like with, I mean, a lot of music, and with a lot of even drawings and stuff. I'm currently like a teacher's assistant at CDW in the city.
Really?
Yeah. So that's a for context, that's a college which like specializes in teaching concept artists and like VFX artists and stuff like that as well.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm already like in a place where I'm like, you can tell when a student like gets it and when a student doesn't get it and is figuring it out. This isn't to say that there's people who don't slowly get it. There is, but there is a thing of like, there's people who they grow up either being surrounded by the right kind of material, like that thing that you're talking about with Fleetwood Mac, where I'm like, I put effort in to be like, I'll work a whole year. I did a Splatoon like fan album, right? And I took 2 years on that thing. Not because I thought it was going to be like a Billboard charting fucking, I was just like, if I listen to a song and I don't get a sense of, damn, then there's no point making it. So I take time with it and be like, okay, this feels mediocre, I'll come back to it in a month. And I'll listen to it in its current form for that whole month and take my time to research the things I wanted to do to make it better, so that when I get back to it, I'm like, because the goal is like, if I'm making an album, which I'd like to make an album, I want each song to be possibly someone's favorite song or the best song that they've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I think that, of course, a lot of artists do that, but I think that there are definitely artists who are very okay with being like, I'm just gonna do, for example, like a pop album where every song is just very much pop, and people will love it anyway because it's pop. And you know, like,
I already know that niche is going to work,
right? Yeah, and the emphasis is being put on the technological aspect of it. Like, I love you, Lady Gaga, you're doing great things, but this new album, there's a lot of songs where I was just like, I mean, I recommend it. It's a good rock album, but like, it's like rock in a popish sense. It's like pop. It's like pop punk. Fucking, there's so many different like derivatives of pop.
Say right now that, you know, what I still call metal now gets put to rock, and what I call rock is now pop or something like that.
There's a lot of
no idea
genres
anymore.
Moved a lot.
Yeah.
Because like, there's a lot of songs on there where I'm like, it's really good, and I can understand the artistic direction behind it, but it's also like, if I were to break the song down into just like its core aspects, there's things where I'm like, I wish it did this more, I wish it did that more. And that's like, again, entirely subjective, but I guess like, sorry everybody, but that's why I like Beyonce. She will make 100 songs, and this isn't to compare Lady Gaga and Beyonce, this is no comparison situation, this is a conversational like what artists do, and these two are just in my mind because they recently produced like good things. And also, not saying that Lady Gaga's album isn't good. Fuck. But like,
don't stress about it.
I know. But like, the way that like, when you listen to a Beyonce album from start to finish, you get this energy of like, this probably took like 2 years to make. there was so much thought put into how the songs transition, the story that they're telling from song to song, and there's different instruments being used for every single song. You know what I mean? Like, it's like
a very broad spectrum of different styles of music, right?
But still cohesive, and in a way that like you come out of it like you watched a film. You know, it's really I really
like what it
recommend.
was meant like with, because I want to actually get into listening more to albums, because I've always been more of a individual song listener.
Yeah,
like, you know, I find the songs that I like, or I hear the songs that I like. Like I would say I have actually probably never gone out and seeked any artist. I have only ever either let Spotify or YouTube random video thing of just like, hey, you like this? Yep, just let the algorithm, and if I don't like it, I skip it. If I like it, I sit there and listen to the point that I might just Spotify it to, Shazam it to make sure I can get it, and then download it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, I just leave it sort of thing. But, you know, albums had journeys. They had stories to tell. And so obviously you feel like that with Beyonce is one of like, it actually, even though it's all different, they still follow a story or a pattern.
And not to make this a Beyonce podcast, but that's
like
one
her.
of, you know, she's awesome. She's awesome artistically. I don't know about her as a person.
That's very true. All we get is all the media stuff, but as an artist, you can see her soul in some form of a light.
It's very clear what she's trying to do, and it doesn't feel like, if there's any like lack of clarity that I have on her as an individual, which I don't deserve to know about, like, I'm here to consume her art, and that's pretty much it, right?
Yep.
But like in terms of conversationally, she's one of the biggest things she's always, I guess, she did push was for artists to get back into making albums. And now we're in an era where, we're in a period where albums are how people consume their new favorite. Like if an artist is dropping a song, singles are still like popular, but it's very much like, but we're waiting for the album. Because the album will tell us like what this person's thinking about and what they feel and like who they are at the moment, right? And I think, Beyonce is a great album artist if you wanted to consume that. But of course, you have fucking Michael Jackson. So you have fucking, I'm trying to think of a recent Kendrick Lamar. Are you into rap music at all?
Oh, see, I'm big on the 80s, 90s, sort of early 2000s, but
Fleetwood Mac would be great for it.
Oh yes, when it comes to that
albums.
Okay, because I will say, like, I do hear a lot about Kendrick Lamar, especially from younger, like, and again, you're only 5 years. To me, we are still the same generation. It's not that big of a gap at all. No, but I don't know. To me, rap has. But I think it's because I've been hearing the wrong songs. Yeah. See, for all the older ones, I was hearing them after they've been out for a while, and people I knew were listening to them. That then I just picked up on the ones that I enjoyed.
Yes.
Like, I love NWA, but I only like 3 of their songs. Huh?
Who's that?
That's Ice Cube, Dre. That's where Dre started.
Oh,
Dr. Dre. Yeah.
Didn't know about that.
I don't think I should say what the actual. I think you can put together what NWA stands for.
Sure.
Yeah. Something with attitude. I'm just gonna put it like that.
Yeah.
But the Fuck the Police.
I know about that. Yes.
And Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah.
Like, Straight Outta Compton. I mainly really love that one just for Ice Cube's part, because I think he wrote all of it. From what I could tell from their biography, whatever that movie was about them. He did a lot of the writing, I presume, at the very start. He was the main lyrical artist. And you can hear it when he's singing his part. It is all coming from him. When I hear the others singing their parts, it sounds like they are singing well, but they're singing someone else's words, not their words. And that's where I do find with so many artists, you can kind of tell when a song is written by them.
Yes.
And when a song is written by someone else, but they like the way that person sings.
Yes.
Because
I think that's something that, not like just in general with pop music, I get really frustrated about. But I think like we're in a good place right now where artists are very much more hands-on on the things that they make. Like with musicians who are like the popular musicians at the moment. Only issue that I have with that is that then it creates a culture in how people consume that, where they forget about the importance of collaboration in art projects, which are large and cohesive, right? And I say this in the sense that, like, if I'm making an album, I'm going to make it on my own because I don't have money. I'm not going to hire a songwriter. I'm not going to hire, like, a full band and all that stuff, right? I don't have the money to. and but when someone has the capital, and this is again going back to Beyonce, and even going back to fucking Michael Jackson, going back, I'm trying to think of like the greats here, right? Where they didn't write their own music all the time, but they produced really strong music, which was built by a community of people that they trust and they know and they worked with.
Yes.
Like it's still their music, it's still their art. It's like getting angry at a filmmaker for not just running around with the camera on his own. Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I get that. And another good example would be I just watched the biography or whatever about Elton John, and I think it was either his guitarist
Rocket Man, right?
No, so not the one with Edgar what's his face portraying him. This was actually just like, you know, the little documentary about him sort of thing, but for his last tour or something, but going through his life, the ups and downs, his drug abuse and all this.
Sure.
But like he wrote Your Song, like this is my mom's favorite, like I would say one of my her favorite artists.
Yep.
And that is one of her favorite songs, which was his original #1 back in '68, I think it was.
Right.
But his either one of the members of the band or it was like one of his closest friends did actually most of the writing for him. So Elton John didn't, from what I got from it, didn't really just write all the music, but it was by someone that was still a part of his life, of his band, like the intricate connections that meant he could put his soul into the music instead of it being written by someone that is completely disconnected, but it's like, I love your voice. Like Sia did that for apparently Adele.
Yes.
But then Adele went like, I don't really want to sing that. And then Sia actually sung those songs.
Yeah.
It became a massive hit because that's her.
Similar with, there's another artist named Victoria Monet who's become more popular recently, but she's written a lot of songs for a lot of different people. This is where I'm like, people not understanding how music is actually made is another part of that conversation, because it's not like the songwriters sit in and write the song in time. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they have a song where they're like, this feels like it's going to be a chart topper. I'm going to sell it to you for this much money, right? Yep. But like, there's definitely more nuance to that where they give it to the artist is going to take it and do what they want with it to make it into what they want it to be. So many of Michael Jackson's hits, I'm not saying that he didn't write his own music, but I'm saying that like, I'm just so fucking tired of people. I'm saying that like there are definitely instances where he would have been, you know, propositioned by talented songwriters who have worked with him historically or have worked with other greats but historically as well. And Michael's been like, cool, this is cool, but here's what I'm going to do it to make it my song, right? So I'm not just singing somebody else's song. Otherwise, artistically, you're not, and that's a case, you know what I mean? There's situations where people are buying songs immediately and you can totally tell when they buy a song, sing it and put it out. And there's other situations where you have artists who sit down with friends, family, people who are really important to them, and they sit down and they make the song themselves and they write it from scratch and then they produce it and then they go and they send that out. And I think like the way that the 2010s with the like rise of indie musicians has kind of, I guess, brainwashed people into assuming that art is better when it's created in not solidarity. Yeah, I think so. And not solidarity, on your own.
Solidarity I feel like is a good term for using that. Yeah, because it, like where it's created entirely by oneself. On your own, you like, and if you're not producing it, you wrote the whole album and you went out and found a producer. So, like that's supposed to be, you're a better artist for being able to do that, which is incorrect. Yes. It's more difficult, totally. It took more effort. Sometimes. Sometimes. Well, then you are looking at, again, a niche thing. Like, some people can create amazing things on their own. Look at even back throughout history of, like, Picasso. Like, do you think he was getting other people to help paint those paintings?
No.
Wait, is he the painter? I'm trying to remember.
He is the painter.
Yeah, thank you. Leonardo da Vinci, he was the designer, wasn't he? He was the one that created all these wacky, apparently created even flying machines before flying machines. But, again, he did them maybe himself.
Totally.
But then you've got so many, like the Wright brothers. They created the first aeroplane, but they did that together.
And they're also like engineers versus Leonardo, who is more like a fantastical man.
Yes, that's right. Well, I would say you could almost say that he was still an engineer from their time frame.
Yes,
because obviously, and this, I don't know, I saw a little thing this is completely off topic, but we'll definitely jump back on just what social media can spew out of, like, where the Bible was right throughout history sort of thing. Of like, you know, they said this happened and the Bible had already predicted it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but the Bible also got stuff from other things. Like,
yeah.
I was saying how the Bible knew about science before science did. And I'm like, but science also knew stuff before the Bible did, because science and the Bible are almost the same. To me, the Bible or religion is basically lessons from those previous passed down. Like, you read every religion I have ever read or looked into.
Oh, it's like Aesop's Fables, kind of.
What's that? I don't know.
Oh, okay. So Aesop's Fables. I was just agreeing with you. It's just like the concept. Like, there's fables, you know, like the rabbit and the tortoise and stuff like that. Those kinds of fables, which were just like passed through time, like right. And I think, I don't recall if they're all from a guy called Aesop.
Oh, I get
or
what you.
If they're like a concept of like.
That's what they just called it. Maybe the guy thought of that, of things that just people pass down through genetic memory almost, or just through word, like,
or like just talking.
Cultures.
You just talk about it, and like it just ends up being part of like the
community, the culture.
The culture of like everywhere. Like like to me, Rabbit in the Hair. I'm sure if you like looked at it, you could totally find the origins of it. But it is just like, it's everywhere.
Yes.
And it's part of a lot of different people's culture.
Sure.
You know,
yes.
like,
The core fundamental part on sometimes, you know, persevering or thinking that you've already got an advantage can be your disadvantage. Lessons.
Yeah.
They're fundamental lessons, and that to me is what all religions are, but then get used in the way to try and control others by showing, hey, look how right it was. Like, you can see this within your own world, so this religion must be telling the truth. There is this sort of deity or many deities follow through, and I see that a lot with even modern science now on certain groups. Like, you've still obviously got scientists that are viewing it for scientific purpose, that everything we find out to be true isn't technically true. It is just the best knowledge we have about this at the time.
The only thing that's subjective is that everything is subjective.
Yes, exactly. And in the way that, but then you've also got the religious part of science that is, unless science fully proves it, it can't be true. And it's almost like, but that's then taking away what science fundamentally is, on just thinking outside the box and going, well, here's my theory, here's my understanding. Not everyone has the resources to constantly try and just pursue all these different, like, even Einstein could not pursue everything he theorized, but hey, 100 years later, we're now finding things that are like, hey, it was still pretty on the ball for this one, or something like that. But because with mainstream stuff, you sort of, it gets pushed as like, oh, but they should have already figured this out. If not, you know, like herbal medicines compared to pharmaceutical medicines.
Which also we still don't have a lot of science on, because I'm like, there's plenty of shit my grandma used to make that I'd be like, I feel so much better.
Well, there's sort of, you know, you could look at other avenues that say that, oh, but this was pharmaceutical companies pushing for more in the cultures of especially Western society to go,
it sells better.
Exactly, we can make money from this. But people, if they can grow these herbs in their backyard, we cannot make money from this. But if they can only get it from a very small area, we get all the monopoly on it.
And that's why community is important, because sharing recipes and talking to each other
and helping each other
saves money.
Exactly.
But
even getting back to like music on that sense of, in some cases, yes, the individual on their own had a great idea, but then you have a conglomerate of, or a collection of people that have able to also put together their resources and create something amazing, that it doesn't have to be a
struggling artist kind of thing.
Well, yes, a struggling artist, or even just it has to be one path or the other.
No,
or it just has to be one.
It's all allowed. And also, I think the issue that I think we're in right now is that everyone has their finger in, or at least they feel like they should have their finger in, like, the batter of the cake. Do you know what I mean? They need to understand how things came to be, and then they make their judgment on the art piece based on how it was made, which I'm like, that doesn't, I mean, no. Like, I think that, yes, in some situations, how something is made will add to the art piece, but the information that you have access to from the artist is inherently part of the art. And then you can come to a judgment based off of that. But making an assumption that, like, this art is more valuable because less people worked on it than this art, which was worked on by a single troubled individual. It's like these are both valuable, and the value is the value is inherent. It's just going to be different to you, and you should just accept that it's different to you.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it's like I and this is something I have to kind of teach myself in order to be able to create, because the scale of the projects I'd like to work on, I want to work on them, but I'll need a team to work on them. I can sit down and make I've always said this about myself. If I had a motto as a creative, I could create the entire universe if you gave me time and resources. And I could do that. I can make anything. I know this about myself.
I think that is a great motto, and I think that actually represents almost the limitless potential of any individual.
That's how I feel. But like, the reality is that in a situation where you want to make it actually as good as it can possibly be, without burning yourself out and without putting yourself in a situation where, you know, you just don't want to make that thing anymore, you have to do it with a team of people who will bring in fresher, more interesting ideas. In order for the final product to be good and as good as it can be. Like, even with this, just to bring it back to the concept of an album, I've written a whole bunch of songs, but I know that they will be better if my sister comes, literally, because she's a beautiful writer. She comes and sits with me, and we finish writing all the songs together. That's the only way I'll be like, okay, now it's at like the best place it can be. Because if I just sit down and do it on my own, I'll be functioning in a silo where I'm just kind of regurgitating like my own opinions to myself.
I fully feel that, yes. And that I feel like that with almost every creative aspect. If you don't go out into that world and try and take that 1% from even others, but
like you said.
Yeah, and like with the team, you also need them to be. I know this is me with my own gardening business on, no one is going to be as driven as you are for your business. And unfortunately that is always the same with your art, but you can also though find a team that wants to do their best together. And there's a big difference on that where, you know, the people or the individuals that you're bringing together for a particular project actually do just want to try and do their best. They might not want to work as hard for your particular viewpoint, but they'll do it for theirs.
Yes.
And they'll want to give it if you're willing to receive it.
And that's the power of investment. Like, if you can build it, the number one thing isn't building the team. It's getting everyone on the same page as you, while also giving them individual motivations. That's the best thing to do as a leader in any situation, is being able to understand in different people's motivations, getting to know them to a degree that you can be like, well, this is the thing for you to grow on or to work towards in this project.
Yes, like, getting them to find their best qualities within themselves, literally, instead of trying to almost, I think that's the worst part of leadership, is trying to see the best quality in someone else and take that.
No, seriously.
The feed from it, because then you drain them. You're not excelling them. You're not looking for them to get better. You're looking for their better aspects to benefit you. And that's where it becomes toxic. And you might get a good one at the start. You might start rising to a certain degree, but eventually that will fall because you have drained them instead of nourishing them, enriching them, helping them grow.
Literally. And that's where I'm like, shout out to Beyonce Knowles. She, if you watch any of her documentaries on any of the productions that she's done, you can see that she's dealing with up to like 200 people who are going to be on stage, right?
Oh, true. The backup dancers,
performers. And sometimes she'll have a whole orchestra that's doing choreography as well, right?
Oh, wow.
Crazy shit. And you can see the emphasis that's put on ensuring that everyone feels as though they're building like their own like college. It's their space. It's their space to not just learn from her, but learn from each other and build each other up in a way that when it's done, it's like, at least I know that I can say that, like, I put my all into this, right? And I use her as a Northern Star because I'm like, creatively, that's the right way to go about it always. First of all, always compensate the people that you're working with correctly, but also understand that motivation is more than just how much they're being paid. It's about how much they feel they're going to get out of this experience. And that is a multifaceted thing. That's individual, and it's also a group effort. It's also understanding the relationships between the people that you're working with.
Very true, and the fact that they feel valued.
Literally.
On that point of being, well, why am I here? Do I feel like they appreciate me coming in here? And I think that's a big part with leadership as well. I don't know, this is something I know I struggle with, because I've struggled with dealing with leadership in this way. Yes, money is a big motivator though as well.
Totally.
But it's feeling on...
It shouldn't be the motivator.
Exactly. And you got to also wean those people out that are just there because they're like, well, I want to pay my workers well.
Yes.
Above the award rate. But I'm also not going to pay you way more than you are worth. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just in the way that just because you may have, good talents, does not mean I am paying you whatever you feel like you should be paid. If you wish to go do that sort of stuff, you can go create on your own and try and seek your full value.
That's true.
But it's recognizing where...
but that's also capitalism.
Exactly. But that's where it sort of always becomes... If you choose the... I don't know. To me, if you're presented with two roads...
Yeah.
The old saying that I got from... Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Wasn't expecting that. Continue.
Good old Master Splinter.
Yeah.
But even Iroh from Avatar: Last Airbender.
Yeah.
I love those sort of things. I always love movies and shows that try and give you meanings and lessons.
Yeah.
Instead of ones that I don't know, reality TV show, you still can take that from them, but it's not the fundamental part to them. I feel like, and. As we get older, it almost feels like they sort of lessen a little bit. Whereas kids shows, it's more seeked upon that, we're trying to teach kids values and lessons. But then as we get older, it's sort of like, you're an adult, you can go figure that out for yourself. Here's just some mind-numbing crap we're going to put on TV for you.
I agree, but also disagree, because I'm like, what are you watching?
Well, that's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. And that's where it comes to, like, what do you as an individual choose to seek out?
Yeah.
I find that I tend to go back to more watching my older stuff because I'm struggling to find new stuff that can provide those just feelings of like, here's just a vital lesson or a lesson we feel might be useful to you.
Well, it's a whole... Sorry, continue. Sorry.
Oh, no. Please add.
No, I was just going to be like, in terms of... I find that interesting because I'm like... I feel as though I've lately been in a place where I've really leaned back into the things I liked as a kid, right? I'm playing Minecraft, I'm playing Overwatch, I'm watching anime, I'm doing all the shit that I used to do when I was like 14 years old.
Yep.
And to unlock the part of my brain where I'm like, the biggest, I guess, like, takeaway that I had from 2024 taught me a lot of lessons against my will. You know what I mean? I had to learn a lot of things. And I'm not saying that it was bad. I learned a lot of good things. And I've had to build some really big, like, pillars in my personality and in myself as a person to get to where I am now. But like you're kind of saying, I think I got to a point where I was very much cynical about the media that was being created for someone at my age, and like being like, when you feel like a demographic, you know what I mean, unless like you're consuming media, I think that's where I was really like hitting. And going back into not only like looking into the stuff that I enjoyed as a kid, but also realizing reintroducing myself to who I used to be properly, right? It helps me stay present, because I'm like, I can have access to all the things that make me an adult, but like my adult life isn't I suppose
doesn't need to be fully separated
from my like inner child. And I think I find that for you, how do you feel about like the whole I just feel like I'm always being demographicked. I feel like I'm being put into boxes so that people can throw things in those boxes and get money from me.
100%. I think everyone can, no matter who you are, where you come from, there's always going to feel like there are boxes for you. And that because money is the main motivator for, I think, way too many of us. Like, talking to especially some creative older people, like, a good friend of mine, his father, he's now creating wood instruments, and he showed me, oh god, it would have been like almost 12 different guitars that he has been building, and now he's gotten to his final design, and it sounded incredible. And it's like, he's someone I would love to have on this and showing his work. And now he's also got grants for making wood instruments for certain parts of the community, blah blah blah. So he's getting now paid for it. Here's the thing, oh god, I feel bad, Andy, if you listen to this at any point, but I think he's about 50, or he's got to be late 40s. I presume late 40s.
He's like, I'm 28.
Oh hell no, he's got a freaking 22-year-old son, so I hope not. That would be weird.
That would be strange.
Yeah. 26-year-old son. But you know, he was telling me like how long it took to grow this sort of thing. God, I actually lost a little bit of where I was going with that.
You were talking about inner child first,
right. But also the putting into boxes, people to feed off of you basically, and money being the main motivator, he would say, and it's something I've said to myself a lot. But when you hear it from someone also older that has started to now achieving where they want to be, and I feel like for us especially, we grew up seeing that I'm no one unless I'm a freaking 20-year-old that's already making 20 million for freaking stupid YouTube videos. And like, you see, even though I actually did the math a little bit because I was kind of curious. I'm like, what is the actual percentage compared to one person out of, I would say with the amount of people you see, don't even have to be influencers, like just in the background or news or whatever you're hearing about individuals making it big, about 500 million people. Like 1 in every 500 million is close to probably being the main ones that you are seeing is like they've made it big. That percentage margin is, what is it? 100.
I mean, I'm like, that's like 16 people in the world, right?
Well, kind of close, yes.
Yeah.
And it gets narrowed down to depending on what avenue you wish to look into. But you can fall into thinking that, if they can do it, I should be able to do it. And I feel like we all almost do that a little bit. But again, if you choose to be a musician, you're going to see more of the musician's aspect of that. If you choose to be an engineer, you're going to be looking at all the famous engineers that, have made it big, or this freaking genius 20-year-old that somehow designed a new way of cleaning up trash out of the middle of the ocean. That person's like a 1 in a fucking billion chance. Sort of thing. Like, don't fully compare yourself to them. Use them as a motivation of like, again, what can I take from you that helps expand myself, but I should not try and be you. But when seeing someone older that I can actually talk to, because also that's the thing, you get this on podcasts and stuff. It's like, but I don't actually know you. I don't know your backstory. You are literally, even if this went for 10 hours, that's not even 1% of my life. Sort of thing. So you don't know the story. You don't know where the struggles are. Like you and me, we're going to see each other's struggles every time we do martial arts together. Sort of thing. The different grows, the ups and downs. But seeing someone that's fully achieved it, it's like money is vital.
I know.
Because we need it to, pay for food. If you want to live completely off the grid, you will then be focusing more on just surviving. Because we also do forget that before we had mains water coming through, electricity coming through, grocery stores, all of this, you had to grow your own food and go hunting. That was 90% of your mindset. You might have, or mental energy focus point. Like you might have 10 minutes a day to try and really daydream and think about where, like, do a Picasso sort of thing. You're not going to have any time throughout your life to then fully achieve it. Now with us ability to at least make money to a degree to go out and buy food, you want to find that balance on, making enough money to survive, but not coveting wealth. Because that's why I use the fundamental thing of, I want to make money, I don't want to make wealth.
I get that, because I'm at the same place where I'm like, even if I made music, for example, and I got really famous for it, I don't think I could ever justifiably be like sitting on like beyond hundreds of millions of dollars. Does that make sense?
Oh, I agree. But then the other thing as well is I always say with most of the stuff here, fact checkers go crazy on me because I'm just speaking out my ass on this. 90% I would easily put it at of people with all that amount of money, that's assets. That is not like,
it's
I
not
don't
like
have like
money I
100
have in my
million.
account.
Yeah, that I can just go willy-nilly spend. It is literally, no, I've got a big business set up that they bring in a certain amount of revenue. I own these amount of buildings or this football stadium, blah, blah, blah. That, yes, you may be viewed as having been worth that much. You could also literally still be like, depending on what level of lifestyle you choose to live, like the most lavish people generally are kind of actually almost poorest.
Yeah.
Like, it's always the ones that are walking around in their tracksuit pants, like, no, I'll use Keanu Reeves, I like him, as an example of, he catches the subway, he freaking is wearing, oh, you're all good, don't worry, they're not seeing your yawn anyway, they're seeing it from the side, so they don't have to look at your teeth.
Oh, I love that.
They just get to see your immaculate jawline.
Oh my god, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the hyperpigmentation. You have a great jawline too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's nice when I don't have a beard covering it. I do like feel like the beard just makes you look like fuller. But it does make you feel like you're less freaking scrawny when you're dealing with that.
It's the Irish beard.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I don't have just the neck beard. I'm very thankful for my genetics on that way. But that's because I just like having fun with my beard. Like, were you there when I did the Mobius mustache?
No.
The one where it just basically comes, it connects, and then it goes up. And
No, I wasn't there.
Oh, you were there? That was before I had the mohawk.
Wait, I might have seen that.
You would have, I'm pretty sure, because it was just before I had the mohawk, and I had the mohawk plus that for a little bit.
Sorry to just change the whole conversation, but why did you get a mohawk?
Because I wanted to. I know I'm going to lose the hair, or at least to the point where having fun on all those sort of avenues, I just can't do it. I'm like, always wanted to see myself in a mohawk.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it. That's why I just did it for a little while and got my license and gun license taken for it.
You got a license taken for it?
Yeah, I'd firearms license as well.
Oh shit.
Yeah, just before, like, I was like, I'm gonna cut this off, and then I saw that I had to go get those taken. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do those first and get them for 10 years, and then I'll go get a haircut.
Yep. Oh my god.
Well, I thought that would be better than full skinhead sort of thing. Because I was just going to shave it all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I did, or at least went very thin. I let this grow out just a little bit and just went, you just cut the whole mohawk to match it.
Oh.
Yeah, then it looked a lot better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
Sorry. Continue.
All good. Yes, if I'll eventually post photos of me with a mohawk at some point in my existence with doing this.
Yeah.
I kind of lost train of thought. Wait,
we were
money.
talking about money and how rich people are not actually that rich.
Oh, yes, yeah. Like, the guy that I was renting off of in New Zealand when working on the ski resort, he literally drove around in a minivan that smelled like horse shit.
Of course he
just
did.
wearing trackies and a hoodie.
Yeah.
Yet he owned, the smallest property out of the 4 he owned was 150 acres.
Shit.
And he would send horses over to Australia to do, cross-country racing with them, and then send them back. Like, he was a multi-millionaire, yet he did not dress or act like it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, but that's also privilege.
Well, to a degree, but then when you look out on the road and you see a lot of people that are driving BMWs, especially in Adelaide, McLaren, stuff like that, most of them are leased. Most of them aren't like, oh yeah, I had that money because I've got equity and stuff like this. It's, no, I've got a good enough job that the bank went, yeah, we'll give you a loan for that.
The biggest fib in capitalism is the concept that luxurious lifestyle is in any way within reach. They make things that will make you feel that way. I got a new phone, right? And
That is a nice phone. I'm guessing that's the 20... S23, 24?
23.
That's the same one as mine.
Hey! And I've had a shit phone for a super long time. I got this phone and I felt like I was a shit for a day. And then I thought about it and I was like, I'm using this the same way I used my old phone. I mean, of course, the battery's better, like, overall, because I use my phone as frequently as I do, quality of life has kind of gone up, right? And I got it with my watch and my headphones.
Oh, okay,
So,
yeah,
good.
a little package, yeah.
Yeah, secondhand and shit, free Congo. And I had like a moment of like the way that these things have all become like if you have the newest iPhone, you won't look poor.
Oh, so much so. Yes, yes.
And when I'm working, I work at the Universal store, and so much of the culture is like, when I said I got a new phone, they're like, do you have an iPhone? I was like, no, I got a Samsung. They're like, you know? And I'm like, okay, like, it's actually got the same bits in it as an iPhone. They just look different. Or the cameras that they have on iPhones are slightly better because of 1, 2, 3 different things. I don't need that.
I will say these ones are better, and that's actually why I got this. Was literally out of all the phone reasons, I got this because of the cameras. Because
It's crazy on this.
Oh, they're insane.
It's basically binoculars.
Yes, yeah. I could see people. Oh god, it was like 2 hills over when I worked in conservation, and my mate would use his new iPhone, and I was like, mate, all I can see is trees. I can't even see the colors of the people. I'm like, dude, look at this like 1000 zoom. You could at least see them as actual little bodies. They look like little figurines you would have.
I was showing my roommate. I was like, I zoomed in on my neighbor's front yard, and I could zoom in on a tap.
Yes.
That front yard is so far away from me. And I could zoom in on a tap and be like, can you see that tap?
And you can actually tell it's a tap at least. It doesn't just look like a full blur pic.
That said, that is so terrifying. Because if someone wanted to stalk you and they had a phone like that, they don't even need they don't need a telescope. They can just look into your window.
Well, I have thought of that with how many times in a hotel or motel with doing it with just the curtains open right in front, and like, yeah, any of these buildings across, someone could easily have a phone like mine and just literally be recording
Just
this
check it.
and be horrified.
100%. 100%.
Because if they're looking at it from like, 100 meters away, it's like looking at someone walking down the street and you're like, damn, they look good, and then they get right up and you're like, I missed it.
yeah.
Not for me. Sorry, you might look better to someone else, but not to me.
No. I mean, I never trust my judgment when I'm drunk.
Oh, no.
I'm like, I'm sure you're pretty in a way that functions when I'm drunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's why, I don't know, I feel like, especially for generations, at least just before ours, I was talking to Cade, martial arts teacher. Yeah, shout out to Metal Martial Arts. He was telling me about how for one of his daughter's 18th, like, he got it fully set up with alcohol and everything.
Wow.
I think he's like, not even like, we didn't even go through one case.
Oh wow.
Sort of thing. Like,
No, they do not drink.
anyone
Yeah.
drinks. I barely drink. Like,
No.
I drank so much more in high school than
Yeah.
I did outside of high school.
So I'm hearing from people. I feel like this is going back to the whole thing of like, I don't really have much of an addictive like energy, because I think I don't like feeling chemicals inside my body. But then like, yeah, with a lot of the kids that I know, to be fair, again, the kids that I know right now are working at the Universal store. So they have a culture of going out every weekend, which is like, which is almost anti, I guess, the overall narrative from what I've heard from other teenagers, where it's just like, the kind of fun that they're looking to have is very wholesome. Mm-hmm. They don't like the sex in the movies anymore. They don't like...
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah,
I still like
the... They don't like... I still have feelings about that where I'm like, sometimes there's like sex in movies where I'm like, why am I watching this exactly?
Oh, definitely sometimes, like, I don't know, it felt like the later versions of Game of Thrones, like the later seasons, were adding it in because they had to. Whereas, like, the start, or... maybe it's the opposite. I don't know. It feels like in some cases they're adding it because they feel like they need to get more viewers.
Yes.
It's like, hey, if we show a tit here and there, more people will be intrigued to watch this. But it's like, not really.
It doesn't. I don't.
It's gotta mix well with the whole thing.
Like sensuality in cinema needs to be like. It's interesting how if I talk on this side, lower end, and this is the higher end. Actually, I wish
definitely works better that way.
I didn't know about that.
Now you're finding out new things.
Yeah,
This is good.
because this explains some recording sessions I've had where I was like, why the fuck does it sound so shit?
Because you've had the mic spun and you haven't realized. Yes.
So this is the lower end, and then this is a higher end. Anyway, back to what I was talking about.
Sex and movies.
Sex and movies. But like, basically the younger generation is a little bit more purist, but I'm sure it's like a spectrum, because there's also the other side where like, I feel like I know a lot of teenagers where there's like, this like cocaine fueled drunk rave energy is really coming back as well. And like,
stoner vibe is very heavy, like depending on your circumstances and upbringing.
Yeah.
See, for me, alcohol, the reason I didn't go into it, and I have explained to you, but for
Yeah.
viewers, my father.
Yeah.
Like, he was a heavy alcoholic. And
Yeah.
I found every time I got drunk, I exhibited very similar tendencies. Like, I literally punched a brick wall because I was frustrated as hell
Oh, shit.
for so many different things. Like, it wasn't... Well, actually, this is funny of a story that we went to as a teenager that went to a party and some kid literally punched a fucking fence, like, out of anger because a girl rejected him, which, yeah, that's some probably red flags right
Acting
there.
like a child.
Acting like it. Well, he was probably 16. This was like a party when we were all in high school.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess that's pretty par, but...
But I did that because I was just frustrated out of everything, and for me, I let out a lot of my emotions hitting my boxing bag and stuff. And when I'm
Right.
drunk, it hits harder, and I literally, like, I'm surprised I didn't break anything. My knuckles were about like 3 times the size when I went into the Macca's to meet up with it. You know, it literally looked like that big.
Jesus.
Because of just the swelling, because I couldn't feel how hard I was hitting. I literally could hit it as hard as I wanted to.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have that brain barrier in my head going, no, you're going to fuck yourself up or you
No,
idiot.
no. I'm interested about that one because I'm like, I don't know if it's a testosterone thing, but I'm like, I've never felt the need to hit anything.
Well, see, this is, I don't know, again, if it also is a testosterone thing or I've got a very good friend of mine that he has suffered multiple concussions and many other sort of brain injuries, and he deals with a very similar thing on just feeling aggression a lot. You see that also a lot in fighters. But they are getting punched in the head all the time as well. They kind of already have that tendency towards it.
Yeah.
But, like, I cracked my head open when I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
I've also had multiple falls out of trees. I've been hit by cars. I've been, like... I've had a lot of head meshing up.
Oh, wow.
That, I'm surprised I could even function sometimes. Like...
Kids are bouncy.
Oh, hell yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hell, my dad got hit by a freaking semi-trailer and still came back somehow.
Oh, bro, my little brother rolled down multiple stairs. He's fine.
Oh, yeah, well, see, most of the time it's actually, like, not the head bouncing around inside itself and getting those. It's like you've been hit at the weak point at the back of your head, your temple where your brain has actually been pierced in a way that just kills it, or your spine breaks or something like that. It's not actually the jiggle of your head.
Your brain, no. The amniotic fluid, they call it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Amniotic fluid, I think, is for the fetus.
Oh, okay. What's the fluid in the brain that's covered? That's
Maybe that is. Maybe I'm thinking of embryonic fluid. The two much things are very similar with each
This
other.
can be quickly said.
Fact check us, please.
Yeah.
My mate Chris actually got me to do this now. He was doing this on the last one I did with him. He was doing it constantly. He was so smooth with
Amniotic fluid.
Amniotic fluid.
No, that's for the fetus.
Okay.
Let me go. Fluid
Brain
of the
fluid.
Yeah, fluid of the brain.
I mean, at least we have this, but, you know, we're also looking at Google AI.
No, I don't do that. No, I skip that shit because I'm like, I tried to cancel it and like, you can't. It's awful.
Yeah, your eyes bloody everywhere.
Ugh, I really dislike it.
I know, talking to you and a few others about that, but yeah.
Cerebrospinal fluid. But
that's what sits in your skull? I thought that's what
fluid that
goes
surrounds
down
the
your
brain.
spine.
Yeah, the fluid that surrounds the brain and spine.
Spine that goes through your spine. So that's
Yeah.
the cerebral. So it's all one. So
Yes.
you would think cerebral spinal fluid is just your spine.
I thought it was like, I thought it was like
Cranial
within
fluid.
like the little
Discs.
discs. Yeah. I do know that if you get a concussion that's so bad that you have the fluid coming out of your nose, you need to go to the hospital immediately.
Yeah, that's where you can start getting brain damage to the degree of like, you have less motor function, you have speech impediments, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, if you start leaking that fluid or from what I got told as well, because your brain's like floating, that little bit that's sitting at the back of your brain that you see in the photos, if that actually touches, that literally you're dead. Like if that
I don't like
drops-
thinking about how fragile my body is. It
I
makes
know,
me
weird.
so upset.
But then, like we said, you could literally toss a kid down the stairs and somehow they still
They'll be
survive.
fine.
So they can fucking fly out of a moving car.
We've been designed for it.
Exactly. Well, to a degree.
I mean, thinking about it, like from like a caveman standpoint, how many kids do you think just got up, wandered off, and then fell down a cliff?
Oh, so
You
many.
know,
So
like-
many. And the tough ones reproduced.
And they continued.
Yep, and they kept that trait going. That's
Yeah.
very true, yes.
Kids bounce.
That's why they're designed to. That is very
They really
true.
are designed to.
Yeah, so test out their surroundings.
Literally.
Okay, this is still on topic, but I feel like I love this. That's what I love about conversations. Is
Yeah.
the trajectory down the rabbit hole they go, and
Yeah.
the different tunnels they choose
Big
to
fan.
take. But I saw a thing, because when my mates started having kids, I started getting memes or little things on Instagram going, hey, people that are having kids, you might want to see some of these kid videos.
Right.
But it's literally this cushion designed for when the kid falls over that it can't potentially bump the back of the head. Now, I definitely know there will be cases where kids unfortunately have perished from that.
Yes.
But this is literally for them walking around. Like, I've seen my nieces do it all the time, and the baby will naturally protect that part of their head when they fall. They won't just fall like this and like a drunk person and just one hit
also, like,
kill.
points on the body where like you just naturally like cower to. Yeah.
Because you want to protect those vulnerable parts. Your
That's
body. Well, this is where it gets into genetic memories, which science would still say is an iffy area because there's not 100% proved stuff, but there's so many things that are like, we can't dispute it outright. There is an element here.
Yeah.
There's some truth to it that for some reason you have learnt this without being possibly shown, taught, or anything, instinctively within yourself, probably because your parents had it or grandparents experienced it, has passed down to you.
Oh, it's the thing of like black people being scared of dogs because of slavery. In America specifically, more so than
where it
most
was
other places.
constant, yes.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously if you were from Africa, where it's like you're dealing with different environments.
I'm trying to think of what I would have been like.
Wait, where did you move from? Where were you originally born?
Botswana.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, right.
Yeah.
So which part of Africa? Is that the southern part? Or is
It's
that...
just north of South Africa.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
right.
So it's just like literally South Africa and then it's Botswana. And half my family is South African.
Oh,
So
okay.
I mean, like, it's we just got like some weird aftertaste of like the apartheid situation. So that was like the worst of what I experienced in relation to the white people coming in and being weird. But like that happened with kindergarten, I wasn't allowed to speak my own language. Fucking preschool. Kindergarten, preschool, private school. Like, I went to all private schools because my parents wanted me to go to the best education available. But that meant that they always were run by white people who were just actively racist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thought themselves superior.
Yeah, so that was fun. And like and it's so funny because like every so often I'll bump into someone Afrikaans here and they'll be like, do you know Afrikaans? I'm like, yeah, I learned it against my will. Like, I shouldn't have been learning Afrikaans. I should have been learning my own language.
Yes, yeah. Well, did your parents try and help with continuing that at home sort of thing?
Sure. I mean, I can understand Setswana completely fluently.
Yeah,
if people are speaking it around me, I can hear it and I can understand it. I cannot speak it.
Ah, gotcha. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's more the
I'm better at speaking Japanese hilariously than I am at speaking Setswana. Yeah.
I'm guessing from watching so much anime.
I also did lessons from primary school through to high school and then almost into uni.
See, I did Indonesian from all of primary school, and Selamat Pagi is the only thing I can remember.
That's so funny.
I think that's good morning or hello.
So, yes. And then there's Selamat Pagi is good morning, yeah.
Yes, it is. Okay, it's good morning. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn Spanish at the moment, but
Oh,
I am
shit.
now coming to the point where, you asked me to try and speak it. I can say "Cómo estás?"
Yeah.
That's about it. Hola.
Yep.
Yeah, but when I'm now listening and hearing it in movies, or even because I love listening to Latin American music, and just them speaking, for the longest time I never understood it, but I loved, they just gave a feeling,
I
the
know
way
what
the
you mean.
music went, same with Japanese music.
Anytime I listen to music that's culturally has a history behind it, it's so interesting listening to for example Japanese city pop, where they just essentially in the 80s picked up on disco from the 70s, a decade late, and then they started to infuse Asian chord progressions and music theory into it, or specifically Japanese music theory into it. Right. And it's just so interesting when you sonically that these things are so close but they're so far away.
Right, and different. Yes.
And how I
was going to say, when you listen to even classical stuff but done from China's perspective, in my meditation one, that because growing up listening to Japanese but also what was a good one? Like, I noticed that actually in Avatar: The Last Airbender, it actually had a lot more just the, what would you call it? It's like more
like in terms of instrumentation, or
yeah, more, well, so it's not like a pop sort of style of music, and it's not classical, but it's just like them, you know, their violin stuff, their piano work stuff. But when you hear their piano style compared to a European piano style, there's a difference.
No, totally. Like, there's also like an entire subgenre in Japan of European sounding music from the perspective of Japan.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of like, and then I was having a chat recently with a friend because we both grew up like liking a lot of anime stuff, and that's how we became friends. And she's in America. She was telling me about how basically she's Chinese in America, so it's interesting being in America where a lot of the genres were originally from, but then they will move to Asian countries and they'll be like synonymous with things like karaoke or with even arcades, you know what I mean, based on when the genre came in and became popular and what it became popular for. So you'll see like someone will be performing a disco song, but they'll be doing like a two-step to it that looks more, I don't know, like just very general pop dance to it, you know what I mean? It's not based in like doing house dance or doing like you know how like genres came with dances kind of assigned to them, like if you think of like, you know, like a sock hop and shit like that, you know, like historically. But when it moves to different places, it changes in context and then it becomes something completely different.
It becomes its unique self, its own.
It's just interesting. I think it's cool.
Well, it's also like how art does it. It's just how every and this to me is where, I don't know, I feel like, actually I'm gonna go on to the thing of how we said with like racism, of, you know, individuals viewing it as, you know, if it came from our place, you know, there's an area where there is appropriation. Is the word appropriation?
Yeah, cultural appropriation.
Where you were using it to gain, almost essentially from my understanding, it's almost just viewed with financial benefit, isn't it?
I think that the main issue with cultural appropriation is usually financial benefit, but also clout. If it's just a situation where you're benefiting from...
like you're incorporating it, like...
Not quite. It's more specifically... It's highly contextual, but I'm going to say yes, it's money and clout. So a good
clout?
Clout is when you gain like a social, there's like social currency. Right?
You're gaining a reputation, you're gaining
for this thing.
Yes, that you've taken from someone else.
A lot of strong examples of appropriation would be like Elvis Presley, the Bee Gees. Those are
the Bee Gees, really?
The Bee Gees popularized disco at a time where disco was considered black and queer, and and that was happening through the Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night Disco, that movie. That was like the movie that made disco popular in American culture.
Shifted it from being more of a subculture thing to now it's everyone's sort of thing. Okay,
there was a whole conversation around disco in the sense that this was at a period where in the 60s we were moving out of rock and roll being the main genre, right? And rock and roll already existed as a hilariously like a form of class consciousness, because it was in a place where in the 50s and 40s the genres that usually populated the Billboard charts were much more like ballads and like sing-songy, like, you know, very Christian music, very fucking white music, right? And like the
very Disney music.
Disney music. So you're thinking about like your Sinatras and shit like that. And then when you kind of moved into the 60s, it was going into rock and roll. Everyone hated rock and roll, but it was becoming popular because the kids wanted rock and roll. It was also important for racial integration. And then in the 70s, people were moving away from rock and roll and into disco, which was more flamboyant. It was associated with drug use. It started club culture. It was the beginning of a lot of fashion trends. You know what I mean? Like the whole concept of disco it was the beginning of what I'd say is like tradition, like not like dance pop music, not dance music, because I know dance music has a big history, and yeah, there was literally a period where like at some point in the 70s, I can't remember when, it was like 1978 or some shit, there was a disco demolition derby at a baseball game where in like when you got a seat for this game, which was one of the biggest games in America, you had to bring a disco record as well. And then they put them all in a pile and burned them in the middle of the stadium. And it was the end of disco in terms of pop culture. And then you hit the 80s, and guess what? It's all about rock music. Heavy rock music, a lot of denim, a lot of working class struggle that is purely from a perspective of like traditionalists. Yeah, it was very traditional, and it was very like remember the 60s and how much better things were in the 60s. Like that was the 80s.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I always get it confused. I always thought
think how like Grease came out in this. Grease came out in the 80s. Hairspray came out in the 80s. There was a lot of media that was
trying to push
reminiscent
back
to the 60s, yeah,
and the 50s.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
See, okay, I've always got that wrong then in my head, because I always thought it was the 70s was more rock, and then 80s became more disco.
I mean,
sort
they
of thing.
definitely coexisted, but in terms of what was like becoming more and more of like the fresh new thing, disco was the fresh new thing. The same way hyperpop is currently the fresh new thing.
I get you now. So then the fresh new thing again was trying to bring back rock during the 80s.
During the 80s. And then bringing back rock in different flavors. Alternative rock did new interesting things in the 70s, but that continued on into the 80s as well.
Gotcha.
And then you ended up with electronic dance music with, you know, the introduction of like synthesizers and Moogs and stuff like that.
I was going to say, you had then the development of rap music becoming popular in the 80s, and then becoming mainstream in the 90s
yeah,
and early 2000s.
And the thing is, because in the 80s and 90s, there was also a push of African American culture becoming more mainstream. Sitcoms and stuff like that were being made. They were more popular.
Yes. Instead of them being viewed in almost the second category or a lower category, it's like they became like
it's connoisseurs of pop culture.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it almost became it's cool to be black, because
totally
that's where I don't know, a guy at work always used to call himself a wigger. Whereas
what's that mean?
A white N-word.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
And then by sorry, I don't have time for that. And then by like the mid 90s, you can see like the style, everything that we're doing right now, right? Because we're doing 90s and 2000s again. Aesthetically, that was based on hip hop culture, and then now hip hop culture has become so important to the basics of pop culture at the moment. How people dress, the things that they're streetwear. What does streetwear come from? Hip hop. Like, if you wanted to get into the different kinds of hairstyles, the nail culture, like for women, even different layers of the makeup cultures, a lot of it coming from a lot of black African Americans specifically, things that were well sold. And of course, there's more nuance to this than what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is like, there has definitely, and of course it was the same in the 60s, it was the same in the 50s when rock and roll became popular and came with a whole new different subset of like dress cuts and stuff like that for women. And I guess what I'm saying is that the way that music ties into so aggressively what the public is thinking about in the moment is just one of my favorite things about it, because then it like it gives you an idea of exactly what everyone was thinking. Not
in
like,
those points of time.
Yeah, like think about how the 2000s were all about R&B. Everyone who was like any race, anything, they were doing R&B music. And then we hit the 2010s, and what are we doing now? We're doing Christian music without God in the lyrics. We're doing Coachella aesthetics. We're doing flower hats. We're doing mustaches. We're doing
I already think the mustaches are freaking more now.
Yeah, oh no, they're back again. But we were doing like the fucking
eccentric mustaches.
Yeah, with character mustaches. We were doing the fucking. We're trying to like that. We were going back to this idea of like a simpler, more I guess, leaned back. A cult like aesthetic, right? Florence and the Machine were one of the biggest pop artists at the time, that kind of thing. And like now the pendulum swinging back into like everyone wanting to get back into really like more black aesthetics again. And, like,
you're so right with that. I've seen that so much again, and that's where it kind of feels like with the younger ones, especially like what I saw in the 2000s, but I was a kid, so I didn't care that much. But it's always a teenage, more influence packed of wanting to be part of the popular scene, of where, you know, that point it's cool to be black, like it is now, sort of thing, of where a lot of people that are younger, it's like, oh, you know, I'm white, but I want to try and act as black as I can. But okay, because this is where we started, was cultural appropriation.
Yeah, sorry, I took us to.
Oh, well, I want you to. To me, tell me your thoughts, passions, your even your frustrations, because that's really what it means to be human. From trying to understand cultural appropriation, but I also see it in a different part, in that so many of the younger kids, I don't know, I'm not going to associate it with cultural appropriation because I want to understand that. This is separate, but talking on that with the whole fashion trends constantly changing of, you know, for a while in the 2010s, especially after I'd left high school, it was almost cool to be gay. The more people were trying to come out and act,
I guess so.
Like, and even now, like, it is, and I would even say it's, some people are thinking, like,
it's cool to be bi right now.
It's almost cool to be a woman in some cases, that I feel like with some, like, it's never a full black and white, but you can definitely see with some in this transgender evolution, I guess you could say, of this new change. That some of them are more doing it because they feel that this side's getting more attention.
I definitely think that way about a lot of gay men, where I'm like, why are you acting like a woman so much? When, like, it almost feels like a caricature of a caricature, as opposed to them being themselves,
and
right?
I see in the music as well with, you know, because black culture is more popular at certain points, when it becomes more popular, the other side is trying to more be like it, because it's that, again, sense of wanting to feel acknowledged, and feel...
That's the thing where it's like, it's based on the political situation, because I think that I don't know, with transgender people, I feel as though there's always been transgender people. The conversation is now being brought up the same way gay people were being brought up in the 2000s and 2010s, and with another 10 years we're going to see a flip-flop on like how people feel about it, until we just recognize that, oh my god, transgender people exist and whatever.
And there's some people out there, but, you know, we're dealing in the grey areas right now of, you know, I don't know, to me, the issue on this line is where, especially more in America, I don't know how bad it is here in Australia.
America's going through it right now.
Well, in the sense of kids basically, like, I'm sorry, when you're 12, you don't know what the fuck you want. Like,
I get you.
Like,
so I'm like, some kids do.
To a degree. Like, there's a difference between, like, I like men or I like women, or I like both. But to truly know what you're wanting to do without going through conversations.
I agree.
Like, to me, there's, like, even with being gay or bi, just ask them the questions, like, because I sort of had it with my family, because I was sort of unsure, because I was so close to the women in my life. That, and again, I can see attractiveness in guys, but I don't find them sexually attractive.
Interesting.
That I needed to have these conversations and to openly talk about it. But especially more in America, and what you see portrayed on social media, it is very much, you know, to ask any of these questions or to have these conversations is to almost say, like, what are you almost trying to put them down without putting them down.
Yeah, right.
That you're not having the conversations means you're in complete and utter support, and any brought up point of you trying to say, well, let's just talk about this is, you're saying that, you know, you're trying to talk them out of it almost, or something.
I guess the number one thing that I understand from all trans people, young and old, is like, as long as there is support and love for the individual above all things, that's what's important, right?
That's exactly,
and I think that
comes from it.
There is a conversation to be had about, like, introducing, you know, the chemical and the surgical into these things very early. Again, circumstantial. Some individuals definitely know, some do not. But I have heard more cases of people being a lot happier after surgery than I do of people not being happy. Right.
Well,
like percentage wise, right? And then I think, like, also to kind of add to that, if they, the same way that I feel that a lot of gay men or gay people in general when we were really being put into a caricature space, early, like late 90s to early 2000s, was like, okay, gay people exist, but they exist like this. You know what I mean? Like, that was the expectation. And like, and I think that so many gay people growing up at that time felt like they had to be that in order to be like, well, I'm gay and deal with it, right? And that's how you end up with like the crazy ass like drag queens that kind of came from that space. And now this is again a different conversation, but you're seeing different drag queens coming up who are a lot more, I guess, not reserved, but they know who they are, and they do it their way. And yeah.
Also, I will say on that though, because Jim Jeffries brought this up in one of his comedy shows. Now, he is very controversial. Like, I do like listening to him because I like I take from I enjoy, and I don't agree with all of it. But he makes me laugh.
Okay.
But, you know, he's definitely said a lot of stuff that can be viewed as heavily misogynistic.
Jesus.
But he's saying it, like, to him, he's like, I wouldn't go and freaking hit a woman or hit my wife or anything.
Great.
But I make jokes about it. Yeah, see, it's a very difficult thing to cut. Like, see, I grew up in a household where this was very prevalent.
Sure.
Thing. So I dealt
grew up in a
with
mining town.
violence that, I don't know, like, I saw this a lot. I definitely don't agree with it. Like, I dealt with this a lot as a kid. I don't agree with it, but I can also see the humor in it. So
that's where I'm like, I'll always feel, and then we've talked about this, so I'm like, that's all contextual.
Yes.
Like, I grew up in a mining town where the base sense of humor was very terrifying. Like, if I made any of the jokes that we were making when I was a kid, like, this isn't to say that it was correct.
Dude, all the jokes I made when I was a kid would, like, I
wouldn't say them now, and if I was hanging out with a kid who said that, I'd be like, get out. Like, that's crazy. But like, the way that, because the population was so small, and our understanding of politics was so limited, which is concerning because they're working for a company and they're also housed by a company. But anyway, mining towns are crazy. We spent a lot of, we didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the like ethics of the things that we were saying, because we weren't actually actively affected by it. Like, a racist joke for me in high school was less concerning to me when I realized that people are not, they truly don't care that I exist. Does that make sense? Whereas, like, in primary school, I had, like, a bully who was racist, but the minute people started to be like, hey, don't fucking do that, racist jokes became cool again for me, because I didn't care. I didn't anticipate it to be a thing of like, they're doing this to make me feel shit, because I'm like, then I can participate in a racist joke too. If you want to play with me like that, I can give that back to you, and we'd all like live, you know what I mean? But like, that's not to say that this is part of the issue that I kind of have with the concept of a city or social media where you have access to everyone's opinions all the time, because a joke that might function in a single context will be different in a different context, where someone else who is definitely going to be affected by it negatively will be entirely privy to it and be able to respond.
Yes.
Like, and I think my feeling will always be, there's plenty of comedians that I enjoy, Caleb Heron, I love you, where you know how to play with these topics in a way that you understand that your audience understands who you are.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So your sense of humor is coming from a place like that. What I don't love is people who go online and they kind of go like, it's okay to make jokes like these all the time, anywhere, everywhere. You know what I mean? Because that's a different narrative.
Yes. Yeah. See, I wouldn't go and say the jokes that Jim Jeffries says.
Right.
But I go and listen to him, and I laugh at him.
But then I'm like, but doesn't that attract a specific kind of person and create a specific kind of culture?
But that does everywhere, though. And that's where it will always, I don't know, this is where I have to look at. I only truly judge individuals on how they choose to act towards me or those I see around me.
Right.
Because as soon as it's, like you say, like, those comedians, they find their avenues. They find the people they can joke about, like Bill Burr. I love Bill Burr as well.
He's funny.
But would you say that he says some very, like...
He does, but he's always clear about where he stands about these things.
Well, see, Jim Jeffries does the same. Like, he'll always state afterwards, like, I'm not condoning this, but it all made you guys laugh as well, though, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess I haven't listened to his stuff, so I don't have a strong opinion on it.
But if you have Bill Burr understanding, that's where I can use this as another
Yeah.
light. So you understand that there's definitely aspects that, I don't agree with it, but I'm also seeing your funny side you're trying to portray from it.
Yeah.
You're not trying to send a message of hurt or harm to others, but you're just trying to show more the comedic side of what life can be like. Even because when you look at, I don't know, frankly, just the life in general, it is generally chaos, and frankly, we like order as species. We love to feel like, there's a direction and control, but we know that is not. And when you see all these horrible things, it feels like there's always just that one, like, if it's horrible, it's horrible. Like, I don't know, my argument is there is sometimes okay that killing is acceptable.
I definitely believe that a strong democracy includes violence.
Which actually, let's get back a little bit later on that whole topic of aggression.
Yeah.
We did skip over that a little bit.
No,
with
true.
Damage, but anyhow, with the going back to how you said with you don't see a lot of what was the word you said? Like with transgender, or other people being unhappy with the transition compared to happy.
Yeah.
Now, Jim Jeffries was telling a story about a drag friend of his, or like, I don't know how often he had met her or something, but very supportive online.
Yeah. But this is a drag queen, not a trans person.
Yes, but in the drag sense though. So, but in a small group sense that gets vilified still, because this is back in like the 2010s.
Oh no, we're still vilifying drag queens right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
everyone's convinced they're pedophiles for some reason. When they only live in bars and their whole thing is getting drunk.
That's definitely
I don't know what's going
small-minded
on.
individuals.
Yeah.
Because that to me is like, I've got a drag queen cousin. Like,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
is like, I would say the epitome of flamboyancy. Like,
Yeah.
he is that proper.
Yeah.
That. I love him for it. Like, it's his
It really
personality.
is, yeah.
I find it, I can only be around it for a certain amount of time because
Fair
it's a
enough.
bit much, but I still love him for it. He's not doing it to harm anyone. And, there's obviously some people out there that do find it, like, I've got friends that still find all of that stuff very uncomfortable.
Which I'm like, that tells me more about you. Yeah, than it tells
Exactly.
me about anybody else.
Yes, and that's everyone. What you feel about another person just only projects yourself more to everyone else, and that's good. And that's why I don't know. I know that with all hate speech and everything, like, I'm very much an individual that had learned from being bullied so much that it's how I choose to react and interact with it that affects my life. So the majority of the time when I see all this stuff that's negative, even what the conversations we're having before we started this, I just have to tell myself, like, is it affecting me right now? No? No. Like, unless someone's
seriously.
screaming at it into my face.
Totally.
But then, we're getting so caught up on, okay, this will not show on YouTube. Like, I have not bothered to read the terms and conditions because it is about 1,000 pages long.
Yeah.
And apparently my mate was telling me that now...
So sorry for swearing.
no, go for it. That's why I'm happy to do it.
Okay. But you're going to have to bleep it, aren't you? Because
I don't give a flying fuck.
Okay.
Yeah. I will just put down illicit or whatever. What the hell? Fact check the term. I don't know. Whatever's done when you're swearing, you have to put down like not kid friendly or some shit like that.
Sure.
Which I will state. And happy to.
Then the algorithm doesn't like it.
That's exactly it. On so much with this algorithms on hate speech, it's like, to be honest, I want these people to speak openly because then I can go, alright, I know exactly what type of person you are. As soon as you go shut them out of this and they go into their own little bubble networks, you then get the 2021 riots.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if these people were speaking so openly on Instagram and Facebook, you would have seen these groups a lot freaking quicker.
Yeah.
Everyone would have seen these groups quicker, but no, we're all kicking and screaming that if one person doesn't like it or another group doesn't like it, let's just cancel them if that group has more power.
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, I can't find any good argument because I don't follow too much in this mainstream setup. But to me, I think all the groups will say stuff that another group will not like, and frankly, all it is down to which group has more influence within the political sense.
But what is, like, in what context are we speaking about?
Oh, I don't know. Like, you know, you look at Trump supporters.
Right.
How many Trump supporters say things that are very outright negative, like hate
And
speech?
wrong.
Yeah. But then how many of the other groups that go, well, I don't agree with, you know, just transgender men to women being allowed to just walk into a woman's bathroom when you have little girls, like someone's daughter there, that this person, yes, might be transitioning and just naturally be like this, or has chosen to transition because they know that it is an insight to them, allowing to access things that they, you know, aren't normally allowed to.
But then I think that's a conversation where, sorry, now I'm thinking about that specific case.
I know.
Because I'm like, that thing has always bothered me, because I'm like, immediately you're describing a situation where you're taking agency away from men to be better.
Yes.
Right? And you're describing a situation where you recognize that there's an issue, but you're trying to fix it in the wrong way. If I feel is that if someone transitions and they want to use a female bathroom, we're talking about a situation where we shouldn't have to divide bathrooms into male and female. The fact that that is the case is already a problem. And that should have we should be working towards that solution.
Well,
because
I feel like in part that solution, like you said, with violence, unfortunately, it's the same reason why most people complain that people don't stand up for each other on the street. If I go and stand up for someone and I end up having to hit them, I'm in trouble now. Like there is there's no area that, you know, if we had co-op bathrooms and I saw a guy doing something he shouldn't doing, I can't walk up and freaking restrain him, because there's a good chance that I actually get in trouble for physically assaulting him and without enough evidence or backup. And this is more on a human standpoint, not just a male standpoint, on when you feel like you're more inclined to actually getting in trouble for doing an action, you are less likely to go and do that, no matter how right that action is.
And that is systemic.
Yes, and that's unfortunately a big societal problem. But then all these conversations,
part of it. But sorry, continue.
But that's where I'm talking about with, again, depending on which group says that we can't even have that conversation, because it did feel like during COVID especially, sort of times, late 2010s, early 2020s, that people even having that conversation about why should we talk about with transgender men to women going into female bathrooms as being completely shut off. Because a certain group in a political part said, no, you can't have that discussion, it should just be outright accepted. That now that group is now being vilified.
Instead of a discussion being had, let's explain to them.
Exactly, that no matter what group you come from, another group will not always agree, and depending on the power level of those individual groups determines the avenues in which these discussions are had.
Yeah. Well, see, here's my thing that I always have feelings about. These are the same people who feel that women shouldn't be it's always trans men to women, or men transitioning into women. That's always the issue, because even with sports there's this whole conversation of you can't have them racing against each other,
or you can't have them boxing against each other.
No, I hear that, but I'm also like, that's also embedded in its own way. It's embedded in numerous issues.
Yes.
If they're in different weight classes, they shouldn't be boxing each other, period.
Well, but there's also a thing on your roommate. If she does weigh what she said she does, compared to my weight, do you reckon she could outbox me?
No, but
Even
because
though
you have
she's
more
heavier?
skill.
Oh, I would say even if we both had an equal amount of training,
I disagree.
the muscle that my shoulders and my arms hold compared to a woman's,
I know that
there's still some physiological
I agree.
differences
I
on
think
those.
what I'm saying is that we're speaking about a situation when someone's trained to be in a very specialized thing, right?
Yes.
And this is where I'm like, this to me is an issue with how it's being managed, not with the trans person.
No, and it
Right?
never is about, or shouldn't be about the trans person. It should be about the issue it's being managed, but...
And similarly, you have people like Casta Semenya, where she is intersex. Casta Semenya was a racer she was in the Olympics. There was an entire like tabloid case against her because she looked more masculine, which is also, there's a whole conversation that can be had about how a lot of the beauty standards
that's a difference on that as well.
They're
Because
based on race
Rousey
as well.
sort of thing can be put in that character. I think she's actually quite beautiful. But
Totally, but like not even like from a beauty or aesthetic point, but like a thing of like
the standard of our society showing beauty can also then show, well, if they don't fit that, they must be more of a masculine sense.
and that's a man. You know what I mean? When they aren't a man, now she has to go and prove that she's a woman to people with documents, with her fucking medical records, shit like that, right?
But then that's where you have the problem again of the free, on the other spectrum of what I was advocating for. But the problem of free speech is every idiot with a phone can literally just start trying to portray this stuff, and then once it gains traction, now there's another issue following suit.
And that's where I'm like, these are all situations of, this is all identity politics. It is not important. And it most of the time points back to, well, the people in power evidently did not manage the situation correctly. That's always the issue. And like, I think that the more that people get educated on how gender and sex are both extremely fluid, the more that we should be thinking about how we can make the world more comfortable for everybody, as opposed to figuring out how
to
that's how you
categorize them.
Totally, because that's how you slowly just accidentally fall into eugenics, Nazism. Like, these are concepts which were very much heralded in times of heavy fascism in so many different spaces. It's been so well documented. It is in so many history
That's where
classes.
it's funny how America and all that fought against that, yet it's easy to fall back into it to think, sort of the whole thing on the difference between capitalism and communism is, what is the difference? What I don't know, what was it? Sacha Baron Cohen said it well in the Dictator movie. If you've seen that. It's like, why do you guys, like, he's talking to the whole of America sort of thing when he chooses not to sign this treaty thing. He's like, why are you guys so afraid of or hate communism? You'll I'm going to quote it very badly on this, but the gist is, he's like, you can literally take all the wealth and give it to all the 1% of your friends, which is what happened in Russia, which is what's happening in America.
And here, by the way.
You can rig your elections, you can have an entire media controlled by an individual source, which has already happened. Basically, everything that emphasizes in communism can be, like, they might say that, I do not agree with what it means by capitalism and communism being the same, because they're both different fundamental principles, but what is called capitalism now is essentially just like a sheet of, this is capitalism, but it's literally covering communism.
Or something.
Well, I don't know, it's just constantly always different name changing, but essentially it's a sheet thrown over communism to say we're still capitalism, but we actually are communism. We've just followed their line in a different suit.
And that's where I disagree, because that's not communism. Communism has been used in a lot of different contexts away from its original definition, specifically in relation to countries like Russia and China and, of course, and Korea as well at the moment. So, like,
isn't that a dictatorship?
Well, that's the thing. These are all fascist states. These are situations where there is a power that is telling everybody that you will be equally compensated for blah, 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 and maintains control and also takes away any, like, democracy in a way that's meaningful and actually has changed. Now, that's why we end up with phrases like techno-feudalism, because to describe the situation we're in right now, capitalism is more so the journey than the destination. Does that make sense for where we're at the moment?
Yes.
So we're in a place now where the people who maintain the capital are now the kings and queens of the world. And that's where it's like, I don't want to stray too much from the original point. The point that I want to make is that communism, if you really, of course it has different definitions, but depending on which school, I'm trying to figure out which side of the mic I'm talking about.
It's the only downside with holding it in your hand.
It's like it just keeps moving around. But like communism, of course, depending on like what school or what place you're studying about it from, whether it's from a Marxist point of view or a capitalist point of view, it'll be different. But the correct, in my opinion, concept of communism is a situation where communities are more in charge of, basically, communities are in charge of and maintain agency of how capital is moved around and how they are governed, right? So this would essentially mean like smaller like blocks of like living spaces where the people are completely aware of who's in charge, what they're doing, and where their money is going. And everyone has enough money to ensure that they can live a basic, fundamentally like fulfilled life, and then from there they can choose to add more money based on what they choose to work on. But then again, these definitions change from person to person, and they change depending on where they studied and who they talked to.
Unfortunately, that's where the big problem of so much in the world is on every sort of category, you could say, like from that to just, you know, when you're being offensive in the sense of like, is it fully racist? Like, are you a racist? Or did you say something racist but you didn't realize you were saying something racist? But then, like you're saying, it depends on who you've talked to, where you've gotten your information from, in the group's mentality around that thing. Like you said, in a small mining town, they didn't take as much in. You didn't think of the what was the word you used? Not consequences,
like repercussions,
but the repercussions or the intent even behind them.
No, straight up. Well, that's the thing where the biggest lesson to learn, politically, non-politically, in terms of every facet of your life, is the whole the importance of remembering that everything is subjective, and that means that everything is always going to be more of a gradient than a checklist. And when you understand the world that way, conversations become more nuanced, and the things that you're concerned about become, require research. They require thought, as opposed to just
following, or trying just to have it all fed to you.
Literally.
Because actually, I'll take that back to what I was getting to with Jim Jeffries again, with his drag friend, on the way that she started coming out and not fully agreeing with the mainstream queer community, that then she started getting vilified. She actually found that all her Instagram posts and stuff were not now getting the traction they used to, because the algorithm started to go, oh, well, now you've essentially pissed off the ones that are controlling the algorithm, that we are going to make you more in the dark. So for people to find you, they actually have to fully search you out. We are not going to, like I was saying with YouTube, what I was going to say is, I found out that if there's swearing apparently even in the first 15 minutes of this, YouTube, you can upload it, they won't put it out there unless someone physically looks up your thing. So when you start also getting on the transgender community of some people feeling, you're seeing more of them feeling happier after transition than bad, I will always add that little bit of
skepticism on
like, what am I getting fed? Like, and I look at that with everything though, because unfortunately I have no control over the algorithm. I have no way of seeing what the algorithm's trying to feed me, because of course if they made you open and able to see that, the algorithm wouldn't work the way they wanted it to, because then you could go, well, I don't like the way this algorithm's like. For the algorithm to do what it needs to do, it needs to be doing it in the dark of your mind, where you have no idea it is feeding you this because it wants you to see this sort of stuff. Like when you see all this, I don't know, it's like every election, you always see the bad things about the ones they don't want in power. More of the good things about the ones they do want in power. And you see so much of these polls saying that, oh, this person's going to win. Like, Trump was still viewed to lose. And again, he won more than he did the previous one, from what I heard.
Because even in the previous one, you were supposed to lose, and he won.
Yeah, but then he won even more. Like, more people went, we don't want these people back in. And
have you watched Succession?
No.
You should watch it.
I know, there's so many shows I should watch. At the moment...
conversation on that thing that you're talking about right now.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, see, I am very, because I find... I don't know, I like talking to individuals like yourself, and so many of my friends that follow politics, because I just want to hear their view of it. Because I will get only what is just fed to me, because seeking it out I don't put it in my mind. Like,
And that's where I'm like, I think people tend to act a little bit too passive towards the algorithm, in the sense that they'll be like, my algorithm fed this to me. Incorrect. That's what that comes back to the thing that we're talking about common sense.
Yes. Yeah. What are you choosing to also take on board? Like, the algorithm can feed it to you, but you don't have to eat it. You don't have to swallow. You can spit it out. There is no freaking forcing it down your gullet unless you go consciously, I will absorb this and take it wholeheartedly.
100%.
You could also just take it as, oh, okay, interesting. I'm going to talk to someone else. Did you see this? Oh, actually, I saw the opposite.
There are so many times scrolling through my Instagram, like TikTok thing that they're trying to do is the most interesting thing to me, because you can see the algorithm trying to figure you out. Like,
okay, actually,
yeah.
So I want to add this because as someone of, like we were talking about before, where how you felt the difference between gay guys and straight guys and feeling with romance and all this sort of stuff. When you click on the search, just not searching anything, but just the search icon in Instagram, even as someone from your background, I literally, like, until I scroll about 3 to 4 movements, it is 90% of chicks shaking their ass in bikini, or even now showing their boobs.
Never truly looked for.
No, but I will say, if I'm drunk or high, there's, sometimes it pops up, I'm like,
No, that's what
that's hot.
I set you up to.
I'll openly admit, I'm still a dude, alright? If I see some boobs and I'm in a mindset to want to look at them,
You have to look at
I
it.
have to look at them, yes. But
No, I get the same thing on the opposite end, where it'll just be like men, and I'm like, I didn't actually ask for that. And like, I think to add to what you're saying, like there's times as well where I get something where it's like a lot of like, I'm black and white people annoy me because blah 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 blah, and I'm like, this is so, are you joking? I thought we were past this point. Like, and not to say that we shouldn't, we should be upset about certain things, but like, I'm saying that
I probably fit into some of those.
no, it's just a little bit of the way that I just feel like I'm a demographic. I'm being told like, this is the thing that you care about, and this thing, you're gonna like this thing, and then I never do, because I'm like, I genuinely, I don't care for the identity politics. I don't care for that. What I'm worried about right now, things that concern me, are a lot more based on whether or not humanity is going to be around in 10 years. And,
hell yeah. To be honest, I fully feel that. Like, I want to even have kids at some point.
Right.
I do look at, I think that's what we were talking about before as well, on so few of us, like, as a society, does not want to struggle to allow the next generation, even us in our later years, to flourish. It is all about us in the now, and you definitely do see that with, like, I don't know, we give flack to the boomers. And we put someone in a category. We put a group of people born in certain years.
Boomers be acting a certain way that makes it hard to not.
Oh, that's true, but so does Gen Z, Gen A,
So true.
Millennials. We all do, but
True.
we choose to also choose to go, oh, you're born in this year, you're more likely going to act like this. Like, no, he's an individual.
Exactly.
Alright, he might have like 1% or 10% or 100% or 99%, but never fully be them.
Yeah.
But they also are harming themselves. Like, they ended up harming themselves because it ended up being only the ones that were rich and powerful that are now still benefiting from owning all these massive amounts of land, and you're buying it all cheap, having not to work, in a sense, at the same
level. Productivity is up like 1,000% or some ridiculous number at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, it's a ridiculous situation.
Interesting, yeah, because how, back then, you could literally buy a house and pay it off on 4 years' worth of wage. Yet you look at an individual's earnings for 4 years, it does not amount to being able to pay off a mortgage, when it causes to everything else you have to pay for, increased fuel and everything. But my mom, my dad, so many of their friends, because they didn't go down that certain little line that the rich ones did, they are all suffering because of it. And just because we can put the bloomers fucked it up for us, no, they fucked it up for themselves, because now they're in retirement years, and they've got they can barely live on their pension because inflation is so high. Like, Mum constantly complains because my mother is 70. I'll let everyone know. I'm only 28, so big difference that she will complain about the prices of things, and I sort of just don't even blink because I'm like, I've already learnt to deal with that, because to me that is my future.
Yeah, literally, and
Whereas
that's the reality that we're living
in. Whereas to you, that is not what your future was projected to be.
Exactly.
You were told that it was going to be like this, but it is for those people that have the millions of dollars that, you know, $10 almost freaking egg on toast, they can easily afford that like chump change. But no, that actually is a decent little bit out of your pension when you're trying to pay for your power, your mortgage rates, everything else. Yeah.
Housing and rent is going
Up. Yep.
It's almost like the issue is class-based and not like based on identity politics.
At all, yes. But identity politics gets the reactions quicker.
Yeah.
I was talking to my friends about this when they were discussing, because one was more hyper-focused maybe on identity politics,
Right.
and the other one was very much like, I am just sick and tired of hearing all this identity politics, because that is overshadowing the real problems of companies, you know, CEOs making 1,000% more than the lower worker, whereas back in the 50s and 60s it was 10% more than the lower worker. No, figure it out for you. It's all good.
There you go.
I'm just having fun watching you just...
I'm just trying to figure out what's my, like, 'cause every so often I just hear like,
Actually can't help it too fiddly with it.
and yeah, that's awful. There you go.
Yeah, much better. How does mine actually sound?
Great.
It's been fun.
Consistent.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, that unfortunately though, it's why I don't actually see there's a left or a right anymore in politics, because it's essentially still run by the same group of people that are outside of the politics, that are still just feeding the ones in the politics on either side that want the money, that will still keep perpetuating. It's why every time you see an election, there's all these, the mainstream, like, things that are getting everyone's attention and the things that everyone wants done are always in the spotlight. But then as soon as they're elected, you hear nothing about them until the next election. And you just go, why the fuck is nothing being done? Because the individuals that are getting elected are the ones getting fed by the other people that are actually having the power. When seeing, though, the identity politics, it's what gets you the people's interest quicker. When trying to actually get, and again, it's that whole thing of the individuals that want to choose to put in the effort to learn, and the ones that want the algorithm to feed it to them. Because most of us struggle in our lives.
And don't have the time to do the research.
Exactly. And when we do the research, like, I don't know, I could easily type even one simple thing on how to make a simple dish, and I could get 100 different variations or ways of doing it. Or even something as meant to be concrete as science in the way of the effect a vaccine had on individuals.
The vaccines and a
massive spectrum. That's a thing, that's fun. What do I trust? You get so many things that's like, oh, you know, you should trust this source. Like, you can't trust Wikipedia because any idiot can change it.
Incorrect. Trust Wikipedia, don't trust the government.
Well, that's exactly it, because from my understanding, like, I can't go on Wikipedia and change anything because I need to put in certain keys or tick certain boxes for him to go, actually, we will allow this to stay.
So many moderators. Like, honestly, the number of times I've seen people change Wikipedia for the meme on things like, I don't know, Jacksepticeye's like personal page, like you know what I mean, like a YouTuber's personal page, and then like it'll be changed within the hour back to what it's supposed to be. Now, can you imagine a situation where it's about things which are politically, you know, informing and very important? It's not. It's I get why, like, we're not doing it in terms of university citations and stuff like that, but I'm like, if you're talking about...
Well, now Wikipedia can't be the only reference point, but it can be a reference.
Because I'm like, it's literally the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah. Google uses. If you're not using Wikipedia, if you Google something, the first thing that pops up is from Wikipedia.
Yes, because it's the main thing. Yes.
Yeah.
But then again, so where do I trust? Look at Julian Assange. Wait, there's Julian
Hassan
Assange.
Pico?
Yeah, the guy that was like posting all these things about, you know, in secrets of the government. He's been in jail for like the last 20 years. I know he's white-haired. Fact check me on this. But yeah, like, he got jailed for leaking so many federal secrets from so many different governments and stuff that were trying to be hidden and stuff, because it was back when the internet, Yes, I think that's the guy. Yes. That, you know, back when the internet could be more easily hacked into, and then here's all the secrets from CIA, FBI, blah blah blah.
Right.
The governments obviously would go, well, now you're disclosing our national secrets that the enemy countries, which, wait a second, we're all one fucking world, that you're more individuals not wanting your secrets out, like obviously with government bodies that do horrible things for the protection of our country, but it's like, but it's the world again.
No.
We should still be the world, but you
But
have
that's not
power.
the point. Yeah. I just...
But then
The people with the tin hats in the 90s and the 80s that were being made fun of, they had a lot more going on that was accurate than I think we
gave them credit for, especially at the time, but it was easier to vilify them.
Yeah.
And again, that's where it comes down to, do you want to do the work and go talk to them? Or do you want to just sit there and take what you can?
Yeah.
And get fed what you're fed,
Yeah.
sort of thing. And that's why, to me, I have constantly struggled to work for anyone but myself, because when I at least work for myself, okay, I fuck up on a job, it's all on me. But when I have a bad day and I take it a bit slow at work, to be honest, most of my clients, I've actually never heard of anyone complain that I'm going too slow, because I will still keep it consistent. They don't know what my normal speed is. Whereas as soon as I start working for another company that the clients aren't dealing with me, my bosses are dealing with me, so they saw what I was like on the other job, and the job before that, the job before that if all of a sudden I'm having just like I had a bad sleep, or I am feeling a bit more depressed, they're like, oh, you know, he's not working as hard as he normally could, can you, like, they need to speed it up.
No, it's like, it's based on the context of,
but whereas an individual, when working for myself, no other client sees that, or if they do, it is much more sporadic, because unless I'm working for them for a whole month consistently,
they won't know about it.
Won't know about it. And so I always found that, because again, you won't work as hard for someone else's dream as you will for your own. And then when working for another body, and I think almost a lot of my generation and the one younger than us, is why we're seeing all these algorithms posting that people aren't hiring millennials, blah blah blah, because they don't work hard. All this sort of stuff is,
which is also just bullshit.
Exactly, it's just stuff to get you triggered, so that
it's
you
all
then focus on that.
Identity politics. Like, sometimes I'll be reading something and I'm like, this is so obviously a plant. You know what I mean? It's just like, someone will just go online and just be like, I think that black people are... And I'm like, you don't think that. Like, that's stupid. Like, if you think that and you're putting that on the internet and you're writing it the way you're writing it, that's stupid. Like, that's
You're just harming yourself.
Literally. Oh, you're harming yourself, but it's also like just point blank. This shit is like AI generated. Like, it's so vitriolic for the sake of just inciting outrage.
And I don't getting a reaction. It is almost essentially the fundamental part of bullying, without trying to be a bully, but you're
at least the bullies
do it to your face.
And they do it to your face, and they have like a sense of like, you know, they might actually
feel superior.
Yeah, right.
You kick them in the nuts, or just not even react, and then they look stupid.
Nope, totally. But like when you're on the internet, you're like,
oh, you can't punch me in the face for saying this. It's like, oh, yeah, exactly, that's it. You know that I can't punch you in the face, or that you can't get a physical response, because that's why you see all these groups only saying a lot what they say in groups. Because as soon as they say as an individual, it's like, but then if 10 other people start chanting around going, I think you're wrong, man,
dude,
you back down very quick, or you start phrasing it in a way that is more open than trying to discriminate or objectify.
When I hear people be like, oh, don't worry, my relatives tend to be, oh no, they'll be like, oh, my relatives are like this, just so watch out. Then I walk in there and I'm like, they're not going to say that shit in my face. They wouldn't, because it's going to be dumb. If you sit there, I don't care if it's your dinner table. If I invited friends over, and a lot of my friends are white people, and I sat there and I was like, get about white people, blah, 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 blah. What reaction am I looking for? What am I looking for in that situation? Other than just like, just like to piss people off. Like, there's no... and it was, like, even worse if I'm like, I'm a guest of a guest. Like, I'm your friend's... Like, no, maybe it's like your sister's daughter's best friend or something like that comes over and they happen to be gay or they happen to be trans. And you just go, I have opinions about trans people. get your attention literally anywhere else. You know, it's so that's why I'm like, it always ends up being internal, because like unless you want to have a proper discussion about it,
you're only looking for reaction, and why going online is 10 times easier than it is to do it in person. But you know, we try and look at, that's why I do love podcasts, because you and me can have this conversation. We have not agreed on everything, but we have not attacked each other for our disagreements. But online, one, I will say it's very hard to, like, context is a big thing, and like we were saying with the comedians, but also in the way of, I can read a message 10,000 different ways, depending on how I am feeling in the moment that I'm reading it. And that's why I hated trying to contact women on Tinder and stuff like that, because it's like, I don't know how to, like, I can convey myself very well articulately, but trying to write it, I feel like I'm goofy. I'm trying to think of the most polite way to say that I feel like I am an absolute idiot simpleton.
I know what you mean. Because I'm like, and I'm someone who's on the other end of, like, I like nuance in conversation, and I like someone showing interest in a way that, like, comes with a little bit of thought, you know? And I think that it can be really, like, interesting seeing how these things have become so gendered. And I mean, I don't know if it's a become situation. I don't know if it's like we have different sexual responses. I don't know the context on that. But I find that, like, like we were talking about prior, it's like the way that women might respond to things might be different to the way that men respond to things.
And how in your experience you say that guys seem very shut off, or not open in their way of trying to show that they're interested.
Shut off in
the opposite.
Like emotionally, they're shut off. Sexually, they're very open people.
Yes.
They want to get into. If they want to talk to you about sex, before they even say hello to you, they will send you a picture of their penis, and they will be like, "Hi, I'm so excited to fuck you." And it's like, well, I didn't ask for that, actually.
Okay, see, I don't even understand that as a straight dude. I have never had the thought process of immediately sending a dick pic. Now, I've done it many a times when we've already gotten to that level, and we're starting to, like, you know, she sent me a photo in her bra. It's like, okay, well, I'll start now going into this sort of thing. Not immediately, like, so many women tell me that they will just open up Tinder and the first freaking thing they get is just a dick pic. I'm like,
which thankfully now Tinder's like no more photos until I think I think you have to go on and stuff.
So long.
But I'm like with
But now it's just still Facebook Messenger. If you just add them on anything, they'll just immediately, if they can send a photo of it, they'll send it. Snapchat was a big one for that.
Snapchat is still the sexual place. Every time I talk to people where I'm like, oh man, you know, I feel like I know everyone in Adelaide, and I'm like, I don't really, and it's just like, just get on Snapchat. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, you go on Snapchat, you add a bunch of people from Instagram from there to there, and then you just put sexy stuff on your story. And then people respond to it, and then they send you sexy stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to start an OnlyFans like that I don't get paid for.
That's exactly it. Yes, it's literally a free OnlyFans.
I'm not doing that. I'm good.
Oh, actually, I remember that though with Snapchat, and I've still got a mate that I hope he freaking deletes it. If he hears this episode, please delete it, man. Of still having, like, because in high school you would follow these certain women that literally every day would just post absolute nudes on their Snapchat. Yep. And you would just sit there and basically just watch them going like, it's a nice Sunday morning, I hope everyone's doing well, as I just video myself completely butt naked. Which as a teenager,
did you use Kick?
Right.
Kick was big for that as well. To the degree that it was kids talking. It was a lot of adults talking to kids. It got really dangerous really quickly.
Well, to be honest, that was also Snapchat. Like, if you look at this, like, now with that whole, just because it's a girl that's older and the guy's younger, does not mean it's okay.
No.
So many of these women, it's like, you're definitely like over 18, you're in your 20s, and you're still accepting these 16-year-olds, 13-year-olds, because you know that they just want to click on this and just see you butt naked.
And if it's a guy and a guy, it's not okay either.
Yes, or a girl and a girl. Just
like,
because
none of that's okay.
Yes.
It's all an issue. The queer community needs to look inwards on that one. I hate that shit.
But that's, again, how can we govern everyone?
You don't have to govern everyone. Everyone should be educated, though. I think that's
but there is a difference between, and this is where I don't know. I can only use racism to describe this myself personally, in the way of, to me, the fundamental part of being a racist, not saying something racist, but being a racist is you actually look down on others that are different and think yourself superior.
Sure.
But if you look at them as being equal to you, but you accidentally say something that is construed as racist in an offensive way, but are ignorant that you had said it in that way, does not mean that you are intent a racist, but you have said something racist, and if you're open to accepting, like if someone just has a conversation with you, explains it to you, and you go, oh, okay, sorry, I didn't see it in that way. Like, I understand now, and probably won't do it. Then you are not a racist. Whereas in society, it does state as soon as you said something that could be construed as racist, you are a racist.
I think conversation is getting more nuanced on that.
Yes.
That said, also, I feel as though like a lot of the things we've talked about today, these things are these things are brother. I'm assuming we'll have to finish soon.
I feel like we will, because I'm actually surprised, but now I've found that this, like, you know, looking at it, 1080p doesn't need to be fucking 4K.
Doesn't.
But that has not overheated. It has been running for 2 hours and 12 minutes, whereas all the others, it freaking cocked out at freaking 10 minutes or something on this Australian weather.
4K is a lot.
I know, but maybe I'll do it when it's winter and it's really cold, so when it heats up, it's sort of at a nice temperature and I can keep doing it.
You can like slowly just get like a cute little new camera.
Oh, I will. Yeah, like when I'm, I don't know, if I ever do a Joe Rogan sort of spec setup where I actually have my own place, I can bring people over, where it's more of a permanent setup than me doing my traveling one. I would like to get a more functional camera, but that GoPro at this, perfect for literally just putting it in one of these small pockets. You do not see it, it does not take up any room, and yet it gives me, because all I'm looking for with this is, you don't really have this, I'm not really showing you anything, anyone, but you can see the people who are talking, and when they're describing something, because to me, a big part of, again, why I like talking to people in person instead of messaging, I use my hands on expression, like you can see it on a face, you can see...
It's like what you were talking about before, about eye contact.
Yes, and you can see much more intent in what someone's saying through their whole self. So when you only even when you... Like, I love Hamish and Andy. Please, if you guys ever want to chat, let me know. I grew up watching them, like the Gap Year, stuff like that. They've got their podcast, but they don't have any video. Like, they video it, but they don't upload it with their podcast. Not even on YouTube.
Wow.
Well, from what I understand, like all the old ones, that, you know, they're doing little jokes between each other. They're doing hijinks or whatever the hell you want to call it. That I would just love to every now sit there and watch.
I can actually see it.
Yeah, like they're describing about something he's holding in his hand, and I'm like, you're videoing this, but you're not uploading that video because I can't see what you're showing in the hand, even if it's for 5 seconds. Yeah. Okay, wait, I've lost it again.
What are we talking about?
Right. I was trying to use racist.
Right. And you're describing a situation of...
Oh, well, in the way, how people need, like we said, with people needing to be educated. I know, this has been going for ages.
We're almost done.
Yeah, 10 more minutes, max. I'll try and finish this and then we can end it.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we also won't hear you peeing. I don't think his mic's going to capture that this time.
Now people know it would have... Yeah. It's okay, continue.
I gladly shall. Crud, I lost myself for a second.
You're talking about racism, something.
Oh, right, yes, but more on the, like, again, it's on education. Like, you know that some people will be racist because they know they're being racist and will happily be racist.
Right, actually, I was talking to you about a thing in terms of that where I'm like, it's a gray area. Not gray area. It's a gradient.
Yes.
So racism isn't necessarily, you don't have to be lynching me actively to be racist. Does that make sense? And you don't have to be calling me the N-word to be racist. You can be racist. I am racist in ways that I don't want to be racist. The biases are there because societally they exist.
Yes.
And because of the people that you grew up with. My I shouldn't say that. Like people who I have people in my life who, for example, are very much like against certain races of people, and I grew up with that for such a long time that they became part of how I thought of the world against my will, and I've now had to actively undo that. Right? Yes. And I think that people assuming that, like, again, thankfully, I think we're at this place where this conversation is happening more actively. But there are some people who are literally so, like, they can't understand that society has an effect on their views on race, and even to the degree of, like, whether or not you date a certain race. It's like, why not? Because people or something in the world has told you that you shouldn't date that race. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Well, in that sense of the people being more educated on adults with kids, sort of thing, 'cause that's where it originated from. And unfortunately, it's again, like, you can try and educate as many people as you can, but there's always going to be those that choose to go, I just don't care.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes a problem. As much as it's like, we want the world to be perfect, but the best thing we can do is the everyday moments that we choose to interact with, and how we choose to interact with them. On the part where, what, did you hear something? Yeah, I thought so too. Like, again, our conversations together, how I choose to interact with the kids at martial arts with teaching now. And Kate's helped pull me aside where, one of the girls, she wanted to come over and have a chat while the other kids were doing stick work on the bags, and she was about to walk into the kids where the stick, like, to get hit, and I immediately just grabbed her to pull her over, like, oh no, let's not go there. Okay, it was like, that was really good, because like we do not want her to get hit. That can cause damage, but because she was a young girl and you don't know her past, you got to grab her more by the shoulders. I just grabbed, put my hand on her chest, sort of thing, which to me, like, with my nieces, they don't think twice about that. I just think safety. Immediately I think safety.
It's contextual.
Well, and it's the way of that's how I interact in that day. If the parent came up and said something and all this, I would interact with it in the best way I could. Take from it what I could, explain my side of things, because you can get parents that will outright just be like, I don't care, you never touch my kid like that. Or another parent that will be like, oh no, I didn't actually see the before part, I saw the aftermath, sort of thing. I see why you had to grab her like that real quick. Like, you weren't doing it out of a horrible intent, I guess. That's the way I can put it. And so unfortunately, trying to create a perfect world, or hoping that everyone follows and not falls into those categories how we would like it to be, is sort of that whole, you can't, but you can hold yourself accountable to your own actions and choose to be better than who you were yesterday.
No, straight up.
Once you do that, that's it. That's the best thing we can all do.
And if everyone's doing that, we will create community. And that's the whole thing of, if you want true community, you need tolerance. And that means being around people who are not like you. The assumption that you have to live a life without ever being annoyed is one that is extremely individualistic.
Oh, so right. And yes, you got to challenge yourself. Go out and talk. Like, I know friends that won't go to gay bars.
That's so funny.
See, I wouldn't go to a gay bar myself, but if my friends took me to a gay bar, I will go to a gay bar.
Okay.
Like, most of the time, I only go to a bar to play pool. That's the only reason I go to a bar, or a pool bar, sort of thing. I don't really go out clubbing. But if you take me to a club, I couldn't give a flying shit what type of club it is. I will just go.
You're there with the company.
Exactly. Unless there's constant fights breaking out, and I'm like,
you'll never really find. I mean, not never, but hardly ever there fights.
More
just like crying white women.
I don't know, in rural towns where the communities are much smaller. In gay bars. But I'm meaning just in general, like going out sort of thing. There's going to be areas where you're going to get some fights and stuff like that, but that's very true in gay bars. I have noticed that it is generally someone who's gone in there expecting something different and unfortunately gotten shut down, realizing that there's a reason why all these guys look so good in here.
No, absolutely. Or why I did get poked when I walked in. Like I've been that's also been really interesting. Like with my not coworkers, my male straight friends, who I'm like, I just want to take them all out to a gay bar one night just for fun.
You
And
should.
I really
So you should just like
That's
coax
the
them
plan.
into it. They don't know.
No. I will. They are all privy. Like I don't want to make them uncomfortable.
Well, actually, that's probably better.
Yes,
It's actually
yes.
better. Yeah, because then if they're open, they're open. If they're not.
That, but also like a lot of it is just they get to experience being the prey.
Ooh, that is a good way of putting it. In the way of knowing what it's like to deal with another guy, or what it's like to deal with that in a sense. Because unless you go into an area where you are now viewed as prey, you have no idea you're always being the predator.
Yes. And this isn't to say like there's some like grand like I come out and I'm like, so what did you learn? It's just like it's interesting being in a space where I think like this not to start a whole new chat, but like the idea that also it's so pretty outside. The idea that with a lot of the like straight white guys in my life, cis straight white guys in my life, I have a desire to take them out of their comfort zone, because I feel like a lot of people are very used to being very comfortable and being not the apex, but like the person who like they don't know how to struggle. Does that make sense? In relation to these kinds of things, not in general, but no,
in some aspects.
But like in like the sense of like
what
we're
it means to
talking
struggle
about.
in certain aspects.
Yeah,
It's like taking a white person and putting them into like. If you go over to like India or China, poor, you experience what racism is like.
No, totally.
But if you go over there rich,
you
you have
don't.
no fucking idea what racism is
Or
like.
even as simple as like if I have a white partner and I bring them to my very black household and they have to just hold their own.
You have to feel
in that
like
space. You're the outsider.
Yes, you're literally the definition of what minority means, in the way you are the smaller group in comparison.
And I do very much judge people based on how they react to getting a little bit of that, because I'm like, I live that life every single day of my life. And if it, like, not to say that you should take the pain, but I'm like, you should understand that you actually are also equally a minority. It's just that the way the system is built put you in a place of
In the one you are currently surrounded by, you are at the top.
Yeah.
It's like trying to put a lion now in the ocean with a shark.
No, totally.
It's like, you're now going to deal with what it's like to be terrified and not be your apex.
Right.
You are now having to
like,
deal with other shit.
as opposed to the shark, which is always in the desert. Like,
Oh, totally.
yeah. Okay.
Oh, I think it can. Yep. Alright, well, the video has decided to kill itself. Well, actually, you know what? There we go. It's back up and running. Sorry about that. Pause for people.
But maybe that is an indication.
Well, it has hit 2 hours and 31 minutes for this one,
There we
which I
go.
think is the longest one I've done so far.
Oh, there you go. I think we're good.
I think so too. Let's end that. Sharks and deserts.
Sharks and deserts. The concept is everyone make yourselves.
Make yourself feel like, put yourself in the position where you are not, you are the prey. I think is the best way to put it. Is where
you're
are
not comfortable.
Yeah, you're uncomfortable, but not in the sense of like, don't put yourself in 150 degrees Celsius sauna. That's
Don't
not
be
smart,
stupid.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't be stupid. Class consciousness is important, and recognize that your enemy is not people who look and think differently from you. It's the people who make money off of you existing.
Or
Yeah.
make money off of you thinking that that's what it should be.
Totally.
Yes, the ones that are like making, gaining and being benefited by you and the other person fighting over seeming different but being absolutely the same and having no real difference besides upbringing. And that's basically almost it when it comes to an individual sense of you and me. We're going to be struggling and dealing with different problems in our own life, but
Totally.
we are equals.
And that pain is subjective and also equal in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
Of course, I mean, that's different depending on where you are, who you
Yeah,
are.
the way you live in, yes. And I will
Sometimes it
admit
gets
that
a
I
bit-
am in a beneficial part of being here with
Yeah.
me, but I view you as an
It's
utter-
not your specific. Yeah, it's not like your fault.
Yes,
Like,
yeah. But I acknowledge that I do have a benefit.
Yes,
That
yeah.
I have, and try and do my best to not. And that's what we should all do.
Forget that. Really, that's literally it. Just don't forget
Get it.
that. I don't
Yeah.
think it's like you should sit there and cry and like beat
Oh.
yourself up about it.
Well, yeah, don't forget it, but also don't, like, recognize it so that you don't abuse it. Listen to others so that you don't try and take advantage of it and actually be the bad person.
And in situations like the Black Lives Matters march, this is just me speaking in my own opinions, I think that people with privilege in most situations, if there was like a feminist march where like, you know, a lot of women are being pulled away by the fucking cops and shit like that, men should also be there to be using their privilege in that situation to work against like that kind of thing. Similarly,
yeah, well, I can agree wholeheartedly from my upbringing that in a heartbeat I would happily do that to actually, frankly, anyone. Because from what I dealt with, but again, you do see so much in the way of we should all do that for each other, but because, you know, you then get viewed as the bad person in society's eyes sometimes. Like, you can go to jail for trying to protect someone else.
Yeah.
But then it's...
But your sentence will always be less than the people who are, like...
Unfortunately, in that, and more likely to be able to get just a slap on the wrist.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
use that while you can.
Yeah. 100%. And that's the message of the day.
That is the message of the day.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate this. This is great.